All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in, welcome in. It's the last day of the NBA regular season. Ayo, that just means the playoffs are around the corner, the competitive basketball, and I guess we're excited this year. You know, we've got the Spurs, obviously, in their best years since they've had it a while. And we've got the Spurs about to hit the ESPN airwaves as well, too. A little San Antonio, Denver to lead us out of, as a sort of headlining game. I guess it was, like we said a couple of years ago, they did have, of course, the Wemby versus Jokic matchup that did end up being a great game. The battle between those two players was just a really good statistical, really good performance battle. And it ended up being an important game as well, too. The Spurs won. Of course, it did end up affecting the Denver Nuggets playoff seeding, which I think kind of ultimately affected their paths in the playoffs that year. Of course, they did end up having to run into Anthony Edwards. If I'm getting all the timeline of this straight, they did have to run into Edwards. Was that his rookie season? And then they ended up, getting cooked by Edwards in Game 7 that year, or just in general. But this year, unfortunately, I guess no Wemby for the Spurs. But, we do have Jokic. We do have Jokic for Denver. And, Charles Barkley, shout out to Chuck. I mean, he can call in and defend himself whenever he wants. Yeah, 23-24 was the year they lost in 7 Western Conference semis to Minnesota. And, I mean, that's the year that Boston, of course, wins the finals. Like, if it's Denver-Boston in the finals instead of Denver versus Dallas, is that a different matchup? Jokic versus Tatum that year. It just would be interesting, of course, to see, how the ripple effects of that, just that one last regular season game played out differently. Hey, maybe Wemby gets credit for Tatum's title. I don't know. But, again, we don't necessarily have, that kind of playoff matchup implication here. But they were definitely trying to get, the new face of the league, the current best player in the league. I guess, shout out to Jokic. In some ways, you do have to consider him the face of the league. Or he has been the face of the league. I guess, it is tough. I know we've done the jersey ranking things in the past. I mean, he's not a popular player. He's got, a little bit of the Tim Duncan, I guess, in a way. I was thinking about him in comparison, of course, to those LeBron years where, he just kind of goes underrated in the MVP voting with where he's at right now with the Shea and Wemby argument. But maybe it is actually, a little bit of Tim Duncan comparisons as well, too. But for Tim Duncan, and I was thinking about this in correlation with Wemby about, just personally myself rooting for a guy in the NBA that, has been arguably the best player in the league when they're playing, because when we started to form the basketball memories for Tim Duncan, he had just kind of moved into a little bit of a different phase of his career at that point, and LeBron and that next wave of guys were in the league and starting to make a name for themselves. And, obviously still great, still impactful. Spurs would go on to win a couple of finals with us watching there. But I don't know if you can necessarily make the case from 05, 06 on, maybe especially once you get to 07, Tim Duncan being the best player in the league at that point. So I don't know if you could necessarily say that he would have been underrated in terms of the MVP. I mean, he still could have been underrated in terms of the MVP votes, where he's finishing 14th in MVP voting, when maybe he's the 6th, 7th best player in the league. But no, I mean, yeah, he was always consistently in the top, 8th is his lowest ranking here for, the first 15 years of his career. And then he finally, once you get to 08, 09, 32, but still, I mean, 11th in MVP voting, he's still a second-team All-NBA guy. But that's when it starts to kind of move into an official different direction there. And then he's just, still double digits. I mean, but even 7th in MVP voting in 12, 13 as well, too. 69 games, ayo. So it's legit, but it's more than 65. So that's what counts. But I think, the similarity to LeBron that Jokic has at this point would be the fact that he is underrated as a guy that you could say is the best player in the league. And, we did see a little Simmons reel up on the YouTube here as of late. and it was him answering a mailbag question about just, the importance of the main 3 MVP guys to their teams. And it was like, oh, wait a second, I actually forgot to consider that part when we were thinking about the MVP. I think that it is very, very common, of course. It makes a ton of sense that if you have, the best record in the league, best player on the best team, that argument in itself is enough to get the MVP. I mean, Shea doesn't necessarily rely on that argument, but that definitely does help him out a little bit. But, I mean, you got to give San Antonio credit for the team they have built around Wemby as well, too. Like, it is a stacked team. So, it's nothing against Wemby to say that the Spurs are probably a little bit better than Denver if you take Wemby off compared to, pause, if you remove Wemby from the Spurs might get the win versus Denver tonight. I mean, that fourth quarter, of course, Jokic could definitely take over. We'll have to see what happens here in a little bit. But it can still be a very, very close, very, very competitive game with Jokic on the court here with this Denver team. And that was the part in some of those LeBron years, like when you had, James Harden and Westbrook and some of those guys going for the MVP then was, they were still the really good regular season records. But you would have, of course, some different 1 seeds, and some of those Western Conference teams were winning a lot of games. And, obviously putting up great MVP level numbers as well, too, over the course of it. So you can't necessarily, say anything bad against that. And it is a little different long term, the Wemby Shea factor, I think, compared to like the James Harden Russ factor, because those guys were a little bit farther along in their careers at that point. The legacy is a little bit more established, but, regardless, I do think that it's like, okay, if you do look at the MVP as simply as that, that factor that we have made that argument for so many years with guys like LeBron, where it's like, well, you take LeBron off the team, like, what is this team? And I'm not, Denver isn't necessarily that this year. Like, we do have to give credit to Jamal Murray, and they are, a competent roster, make no mistake. Like, they could still have some success. Oh, chat! Hey, yo! Strother, I think, did he step on Fox's foot? Is that a push-off? An offensive foul? IT, run the tape back. That was not a legit ankle breaker. We will not acknowledge it. We will definitely find a way to see that it was, something was going on there. Get De'Aaron Fox the ball. Yeah, get some revenge. Here we go. I think he's, a calm, controlled veteran. He's not going to overreact to, any individual moments that happen. Get the ball to Castle. Let Castle take it to the hoop. There we go. But, hey, yo, hopefully they don't show a replay again. I think Strother pushed off. I think that's what it was. He didn't make the shot, too. He passed it. Did they get the stop there? So that ended up working out. But regardless, I guess we could look up, what does Polymarket say? The Kalshi? I guess what do the kids look at these days? But I think that, it does seem like you could make that case for Jokic. And I feel like maybe it's personally for myself. I feel like if we remove the fact that Wemby is the favorite player for our favorite team, like, I feel like if it was a different situation, I might just still consider Jokic the MVP of the league. I mean, the Spurs are a 62-win team, so there is like a definite little bit of separation there for the wins. I mean, the Thunder, have more than the Spurs as well, too. So they're definitely going to, have, Shea has his own case as well. But wait, do we just have game odds? What happened to futures? I guess can we no longer get MVP? I guess here we go, futures. Let's see what we have going on here. NBA champion, 41% for Oklahoma City. Boston at 11, Denver at 11, I guess as well too. San Antonio at 17. Yeah, Shea at 95 right now. Wemby at 3%. And then Jokic at 2%. Doncic at 0%. Trae Young, 5th on the Poly market. Hey, yo. Poly market, what is going on? Why is Trae Young 5th in MVP voting? I mean, he's still, I guess, tied amongst all these guys, so it could just be weirdly how they've listed it. He doesn't technically, I guess, have better odds listed than, Giannis or I guess Kawhi. All these guys that aren't going to qualify. Hey, yo, Devin Booker, Cooper Flagg. None of these guys are 5th in MVP voting. Cade, there we go. Now we're making a case. It is what it is. Jaylen Brown. How's Jaylen Brown listed at the bottom of this list and Trae Young is over here? It is what it is. Can we track Trae Young's Trae Young's MVP odds, I guess it's just going to give us the top four with Doncic included there, which, I mean, does make sense, is probably the appropriate ones to list. But yeah, I do think that I was like, and maybe, again, it is that bias toward, I don't know why we feel like we'd be more okay with Jokic winning it than Wemby. Maybe because Jokic already has that legacy that's, established above him, and Wemby could, not catch up to Shea this year in the legacy rankings, but he could already, get his name and that playoff run out of the way in some ways. But yeah, I think that, and Jokic already does have his MVPs as well too, so it's not like, it's like, oh, Jokic is needing to make up for all those years. But he is, I guess, a decade in the league at this point. I don't know. We can't see Shea win 2 MVPs before Wemby has none. I mean, Wemby could definitely, it's pretty easy to envision, back-to-back seasons, Wemby a couple MVPs, especially, how it goes where you give the guy the MVP, maybe he takes a step forward in his, Wemby takes a step forward offensively. The next year he's a better three-point shooter or something. You're like, well, I guess we have to give it to him again because, he's just a better player and he still is impactful. But, you can't necessarily take your chances as well, too. You obviously got to, get the awards while they're there. But, and I guess Jokic does need to play just to get in the conversation. And they say Jokic doesn't care about awards. They say Jokic doesn't care. That would have been the ultimate not care move, was just to play to 64 games and just be like, make the league make an exemption or something. Because, I mean, again, we're literally talking about still arguably the best player in the league. If he's at 64 games, it just has to not be in any of the awards voting, then that would definitely be it'd be an intentional move. The league would be like, well, what are you doing? I guess that's your own fault, right, then, for blatantly passing up the opportunity to, get in the conversation. But, oh, is that a foul on Vassell? Hey, yo. Jokic, oh, don't complain, Jokic. Don't complain about it. That was definitely a foul. We saw it from here. You guys, they ran into each other. It was a good job of going up for the shot on Vassell's behalf there when he got the contact from Jokic. It is what it is. Sometimes you get caught off balance and you're just like, oh, I mean, that is the frustration of it. You're just like, sometimes, not that you were meaning to foul, but you're like, yeah, I guess I can accept a foul there. You stop a shot attempt close to the basket or something, but it's just like, oh, wait a second, we just bumped into each other on this drive. It feels like there is, a 50-50 sort of blame game there. Like maybe it's a play on. So then once the player goes up for the shot, where you're like, well, hey, it's not my fault then that he's just chucking it at the basket after that. But either way, don't complain about it, Jokic. Just let Vassell shoot the free throws. There we go. See, ball don't lie. Ball don't lie. He is good to go. But I think, regardless of whether or not Wemby is going to be the MVP this year, he still became the most, it's easy to say the most fascinating player, the most important player, but I think it is, however you want to phrase it, I mean, he became the face of the league this year. And like we were saying, with all due respect, going back to Tim Duncan, but even Kawhi as well, too, in those years where, he starts to ascend as an individual player, but then you have the Golden State team around him as well, too. But then even, I guess, LeBron in Cleveland is still, at the peak of his powers at that time as well. And I was even trying to think about other sports with the Colts, obviously Manning and Luck. I mean, Manning could definitely be the closest there, and you had the regular season success of, him winning a ton of MVPs. But, there is a whiff of the playoff thing with Peyton. Obviously, the rivalry, directly with Brady at that point as well, too. And I guess, Peyton is definitely one of there's not like a receiver or something in the league at the time, or a defensive end that is more famous than Peyton at that time. Like, he is not underrated, one of the most famous players, because he's literally everywhere now. But he is, because there are, like guys like Myles Garrett, Odell Beckham in the past, a Derrick Henry now. I don't know. It just seems like there's, some of the non-quarterbacks are more famous than they've ever been in the NFL. I mean, you still have guys like Randy Moss and stuff in the past that were dominant. But again, even still, I can't say that you would say that they were, it is what it is. Like, you would still say that, Manning and Brady both. But regardless, it was the duo, the magic bird factor of them both being the face of the league. So that was like we're saying, about as close to it, because luck wasn't quite there with Peyton. I mean, he definitely was from the Colts franchise standpoint, and was definitely able to take over that, be the franchise quarterback mantle when they drafted him, and was still a very, very, popular player amongst the league. I think he continues to play. He was definitely up there in conversation, but you had Rodgers at that time, and again, still Brady as well too. So Mahomes entered the league, Luck's last year. So if he continues to play, he's playing directly against Mahomes. He's probably not going to quite outduel Mahomes for that popularity contest. But, again, it is easily in competition. But I think you would have to say that, the argument for MVP and the basketball MVP of it all definitely makes sense. But in terms of the popularity, in terms of the fascination, in terms of the draw, like, Wemby is just the number one player in the league at this point. He is that guy that the league needs as that building block to, have the narratives and see the, drive the conversation and watch how the career sort of cycle plays out. People, obviously he's in the beloved years right now as well too, and we'll see, if Wemby just has the flawless career. But I mean, every face of the league type player in that way has always had conversation, develop around him. It is, just part of the fun of having these guys in the leagues and in our NBA lives like that. But, regardless, again, he is the number one sort of story driver of the NBA at this point. And the only other things that would be, as popular as Wemby, I mean, even the stories like about do you say the scandals? But even like the scandals in the league, I think, are more basketball community stories than they are like big stories. I think Wemby is just like a national presence in the NBA. And I think that's maybe the thing that, the league has been missing. The league has definitely had, again, like Jokic is a very popular basketball player. Like, the basketball community loves Jokic. Everybody in the basketball community can acknowledge that Jokic is, obviously one of the greatest offensive players that's ever played. But I don't know if he quite reaches into the, into the average American home that you could say in the way that Wemby does. Obviously, Wemby is still not, just in general on. So I guess you could say that, but LeBron and Steph are just more famous people at this point. So if they retire, like, it's not like once they retire, they're going to be less known. Like, hey, like my grandma's still going to know about LeBron, even if once he retires. She don't even know if he's playing at this point. But it's just like if you bring him up, she's like, oh, yeah, I've heard of that guy. So, obviously retirement's not going to change that. Hey, probably a couple other things are going to, would change your memory of LeBron. But either way, what are you saying? For the basketball impact of it as well, too. That is obviously a part of the case, the ability to still be able to, be one of the main reason why your team is able to win the title. I mean, still obviously a concept, a work in progress for the Spurs at this point. But in theory, it should definitely, it is something that it is something that could happen. Again, will it happen? Obviously, we'll have to let it play out, but it definitely is something that should happen at some point, and especially with the team that they have assembled here. But it is, definitely been, like we're saying, a new experience for us as a sports fan to have that in our lives in that way. It's just that type of just crazy magnetic force that everybody in the, specific world and even the sports world as well, too, is just looking at. Like, everybody is watching San Antonio. Everybody is curious about what San Antonio is doing. And, Wemby is the guy. It is what it is. I mean, there really is no arguing at this point. I mean, again, even a guy like Edwards. Like, Edwards, really, really, really famous in the basketball community and is about as close as you can get to breaking through into, like, a national sort of spotlight. And I think if maybe he had a slightly better Olympics, there would have been, or not just like a better Olympics, but, if he had, and it's not fair to just say, like, if he had an iconic Olympics. But, a moment like that where it's like, okay, now he's on the talk shows. and things like that. Like Good Morning America is talking about him or something like that. Like, now, again, like the people drinking their coffee in the morning that are not watching the NBA or now knowing the storylines of what's going on. Again, like we saw this when Wemby was getting drafted. It's just going to be on all these random outlets and all the national stories. Everybody's got their coverage of it. Everybody's given their opinions, and it's only going to be continued in the career. And he's, delivered on at least the regular season production at this point. Oh, chat, we've got one of the Spencer guys going in for a fight. Hey, yo, Warriors Clippers on in the background. We don't know which Spencer is which. There's a cat. There's a cat. Hey, yo, we're just combining the names. There's a Pat and there's a Cam. I want to say Pat Spencer's on the Warriors. Is Cam Spencer on the Grizzlies, or is he somewhere else? But we're gonna go with Pat Spencer. That's our guess for this one. We're gonna say Pat Spencer's getting in a fight with Sanders from the Clippers. So, hey, yo, I don't think anybody was getting ejected. It just seemed like they were able to stop hey, yo, a fight in the NBA didn't quite break out. Hot take. It is what it is. But I guess that means, is it time to stop talking about Wemby? It might be. Carter Bryant with the good defense. Hey, yo, whoa. But he got a block on a drive there against the Nuggets. So that one goes into timeout. But I guess we are going to, of course, tonight, we have a ranking that we're going to make. We have, with the playoffs quickly approaching, and with the, hey, yo, do we have the camera down here? I guess, is our thing not plugged in? Pause. Hey, yo. Okay, wait a second. Technical difficulties, chat. We'll be right back. We got to get the camera back. Don't go anywhere. NBA, a special NBA playoff ranking right after this. Hey, there we are. We are back and cooking just in time for the ranking that we said we have here with the playoffs quickly approaching. It'll help us, figure out a couple of things. We are going to, I guess, assemble a little bit of an all-NBA team as well, too. But, to get past those rankings if we can. And then, to give credit to some guys where, again, with this all-NBA, we have to consider games played. If we just rank if we just do our own player ranking, we don't even have to worry about that. It is what it is. The REMINGTOM official all-NBA awards, I guess, for the season. We don't care, chat, if they, have the awards. Is that the song on the College Dropout? We don't care about the 65 game limit. I'm not sure, but regardless, the ranking that we have is, and again, like we said, with Wemby being the best player in the league, the face of the league, and being, the 1 seed / the 2 seed, ayo, but also kind of, the top of the Western Conference, we'll just phrase it that way. There is, we're just phrasing it like they're the defending champs. I mean, OKC is the defending champs. Make no mistake, the title still goes through OKC. I guess we still have to be honest about that. It is what it is. But, Wemby's up there in the player rankings, and there is a little bit of that perspective of, as championship contenders, how do we view, how do I phrase it? Is it us? Is it them? How do we view these other players? But as fans, as well too, how do we view these other players that we're going up against? That, of course, doesn't, we'll see as the players, appear in the rankings. Teams might have multiple, teams will have multiple players, and then that'll, I guess help us figure out as well too what teams would be scarier. But again, we have to consider, a team like Denver might not necessarily get all out respect, but I don't know. Again, like, is Murray going to reflect with the playoff fear rankings, like what he's been in the playoffs in the past, and then combined with how well he's played this year? Like, you imagine that, that's going to continue a little bit as well too. But it's the NBA fear rankings for 2026 playoffs. If these guys were in the playoffs, or if these guys in the playoffs, or if they were in the playoffs, is what we're trying to say. We got to give some respect to DeRozan. It is what it is. I saw a post about somebody criticizing DeRozan because he's apparently, getting close to passing Shaq in the all-time scoring rankings, which I guess we got to check out the all-time scoring rankings, because I didn't realize DeMar DeRozan was closing in on top 10 scorer of all time. And make no mistake, it is a little bit jarring to look at the list. I don't know if we can pull it up here and see the all-time scoring list. And DeRozan is already in some pretty extreme company if you pull up the list. But again, he's like just now entering, he's just now getting into the range where those are the names that he is competing with on the list. So the fact that, if he is just around for another season or two, like kind of scoring, a decent amount, like not even a crazy amount, and he could pass some of these historic guys, like, is going to be, a little funny. Like, the NFL, of course, you have your passing yards thing where it doesn't always, because of the way that, the league was pre, even 2010s, but, pre-2000s, pre-21st century, some of the 80s and 90s guys were putting up their numbers as well, too. But, for the most part, the newer guys, of course, are just going to have the better stats, the more passing yards totals. And, as time goes on, some of those names in the list just won't directly necessarily correlate with where we have them in our own, legacy rankings. But the NBA points one is pretty, it's a pretty accurate ranking for the most part. Like, everybody up here is legit. I was going to mention, a name, but it is what it is. You have LeBron, Kareem, maybe Malone's the name we were going to mention. Kobe, Durant is number 5. Jordan, again, like, is Durant better than Jordan? But Durant and Jordan are, obviously Jordan. But, Durant's amongst the top 15 players, top 20 players of all time. So it's like, okay, we're in, the range. Is he on the same tier all time as MJ? What are we saying? But it's close. And if we're talking about scoring, you got to give him the talent there as well, too. Shout out. But, Dirk, Wilt, Dr. J, Moses Malone. I guess James Harden is a little bit of a, he's probably swimming in some higher waters than maybe he is all time. Shaq at 12. Even Melo, though. Like, Melo at 13. I guess we're probably just more pro Melo than we are pro James Harden. I guess it is what it is, because James Harden has just objectively done more in the playoffs than Carmelo Anthony. It is what it is. But has he had better teams as well, too, than Carmelo? If Carmelo Anthony at the peak of his powers was playing with, still an all-star-ish Russell Westbrook, Dwight. James Harden's second teammates were probably better than Melo's second teammates. With all due respect to Amari there for a couple seasons. But Dan Issel, Elvin Hayes. Westbrook, Hakeem, and then DeRozan at 18. Whoa. Oscar Robinson, Dominique. But I mean, has DeRozan done as much in the playoffs as James Harden? I don't know. Hey, yeah, we might have to go back and double check our research. I'm just thinking they took the Raptors have been in at least one conference finals, right? So I guess maybe not quite as much. And we were, again, if we were going fear rankings, we never quite had the fear rankings for the Raptors that we quite did for James Harden. I mean, I guess with all due respect to DeRozan, we went trying to defend him, and now we're making the guy's case that it's weird to see him up here. But for James Harden, again, it did seem like he could be on the level of so many of these guys. I mean, DeRozan could definitely be on the level of anybody. Make no mistake. He's as good of a bucket getter as anybody that's ever been in the league. Shout out to DeRozan. I mean, and, a great Spur there as well, too. We love the fact that we traded Kawhi for him. But, again, I feel like there was a little bit more expectation for James Harden for his career and for Melo as well, too. So, shout out. But, again, DeRozan, 26,000 points. Like, he's right there. Like, where's, what was Shaq? Was he 12? 28? So you got James Harden still moving up the list. I mean, if DeRozan if he did get to 30K, I mean, what is he sitting at right now? I mean, shout out, he'd be playing until he was 40. So, you got to love the longevity there. He definitely would have earned it. But, you wouldn't have necessarily have locked in DeRozan as a 30K guy. And again, it is just kind of longevity as well, too, because he's got one season where he scored more than 25, 2 seasons where he scored more than 25 a game. 28 a game in Chicago, and then 27 a game in Toronto in 16-17. And then fortunately the Spurs, we were able to lower his points per game total there as well. And I guess I was going to say he was still leading the league in 2-point percentages, but I guess everybody was shooting threes at that time, as well as the league continued to trend that way. But regardless, I guess we'll see where DeRozan enters the fear rankings at this point, or which Spencer is on the Grizzlies. Cam Spencer, Pat Spencer, one of those guys might be on. Zion, do we have to consider Zion? I don't know, but I think we do have to start with number 1. We do have to start with number 1 and work our way down the list. De'Aaron Fox for 3. Ooh, it's money, chat. It's money. The Spurs, the 62-win Spurs, we're, going to win a game, or we're going to lose a game by a close amount. Hey, yo. Who would have guessed? But again, we don't have our best player, so a competitive matchup will be encouraging here going into the playoffs. And Wemby needs the experience as well too. It's not like he's has that proof that he can just take a team to the title. We still haven't seen it yet, but it'll be a good still continued chemistry building exercise for all these guys around him as well too. Because I think at the end of the day, it will be the team continuity in the offense that will win the games for him, in addition to the defense. Not necessarily Wemby being the isolation scorer. I mean, he's definitely developed steps in that and become way, way better at just his one-on-one scoring. And, I think San Antonio fans are just confident enough in him, and he just, I guess it is what it is, has enough aura that it feels like he could just make a shot when you need him to make a shot. So we trust him there. But it is going to be, it is going to be a little like that 13-14 Spurs win, where there wasn't necessarily a prime bucket getter, but just like a way, more athletic, better defensive version of that team as a team. Again, Kawhi, I guess, the Wemby Kawhi factor, individually. Difference, obviously, the perimeter versus the around the basket factor. But regardless, and I think that is going to, play into some of the fear rankings and some of the fear rankings for the team as well, too. But Jokic is I guess the question is Jokic still the number 1 most feared player in the league? If we're talking from a Spurs fan perspective, I think that I speak for the Spurs community that he is. But again, there is something to Wemby directly guarding Jokic as well too, where it is different. And we were fortunate enough obviously to have Castle and De'Aaron Fox can hold up, Harper can hold up, Carter Bryant can switch out and guard guys in their perimeter. We do have obviously just a great defensive team in place overall, but the ability to be able, the ability for somebody to be able to attack Wemby from the driving to the basket angle like that, where it's, again, it's like, who's, I guess, more terrifying for Wemby to go up against? Is it Ja Morant or is it Jokic? Is it somebody that Wemby can kind of be a little bit more directly influential in guarding like that? Or is it somebody that's going to be attacking Wemby and slashing the basket? But, if we were going the Shea angle that way, Shea individually himself as well, too, just hasn't had his best, most productive games against San Antonio. So, again, our mindset is a little warped that way as well. But I think Jokic is still the proper pick at this spot. Unless we do want to put Tatum up at this, unless we do want to put Tatum at number 1. I don't know. I don't think I can put Tatum on a list for 2026 rankings for playing, 20 games and recovering for an Achilles injury. I don't think we can put him above Jokic. And again, that would be probably a little bit more of a Boston team factor as well, too. But I guess Tatum could be the second. If we put Tatum over Shea as the second most feared player in the playoffs, I don't think that's the craziest thing. And, again, the fact that he not just missed a bunch of this, the fact that he was able to come back is definitely important for us, just obviously discussing him and remembering, his name in those conversations for the player rankings, but obviously just the impact for Boston as well, too. But he was, of course, ascending, post the title win. And that series was looking bleak against New York, make no mistake. But is this where we hit him with the who knows? Who knows? But regardless, he was definitely, taking that turn. He is obviously one of the more popular players in this league. And, I mean, he could have been, he's been 26 a game this year. Obviously, the playmaking has moved into a little bit of a different role. But he's been 10 assists a game since he's been back. If he was 26 and 10 this year, I mean, he's been 8 assists a game. And, we've seen, obviously, Jokic go from, what if Jokic could average a triple-double? Oh, now he's, actually just averaging a triple-double. He's averaging, 12 and 12 a game. It's not even a triple-double. It's like a step above that. But now it's going to get to the point where it's like, is Jokic going to average like a 25, 15, and 15 for a season? And he might actually do it. And it doesn't even seem like he's stat chasing. It just naturally just like, I just am going to, get these numbers that people don't think I can get. Tatum might have been able to push those rebounds to 10 rebounds a game. I don't think that's crazy. 9.5 defensive rebounds. I mean, make no mistake, Boston's letting him collect. It is what it is. But I think that he definitely was in the argument there for face of the league potential if he would have been playing this year and, just however that looks and being the player that he is on a franchise in a major market in the NBA. And we do have to give credit to Jaylen Brown as well, too. Like, I don't want to go too many spots down the ranking and, not have Jaylen Brown because I think it is fair. There is just that, just way that we talk about those guys now, even post finals MVP. Like, we just don't bring up Jaylen Brown in the number 1 conversations list. Again, we'll mention all these guys with Tatum and Shea and Brunson and stuff. Like, should we be mentioning Brunson consistently before Jaylen Brown all the time? Like, again, maybe he's the number 1, playmaker in a sense in New York, but Brown obviously, had a whole season of doing that in Boston this year. And how many games did Tatum end up playing? 16 is pretty impressive. For sure. It does make me think about that season that Paul George did end up returning from his injury. Obviously a, way totally different injury that he had there. Different timing as well, too. I don't remember his full, injury timeline. But the fact that, he even got out there for 6 games. Because so he plays the 13-14 season and then gets hurt in the summer of 14. So then misses most of the 14-15 season. So the fact that he was even out there for that 14-15 season still boggles my mind. I can't believe that. That might be the number 1 injury recovery of all time. Again, I don't know exactly the days count for Paul George compared to Tatum, But the fact that there's no season where it's just like did not play, injured. Again, it's 6 games, 15 minutes, 8 points a game. But it's, the fact that he was just out there getting the minutes after that injury, that's directly that following season was pretty insane. But again, 16 games, Tatum obviously, again, different injury, able to be back and be more impactful. And if we were talking directly for the Spurs, obviously they would have to face the Celtics in the finals. So there isn't that as certainty, I guess, that you're going to end up matching up against Tatum. But for the East as well, I would say that it's probably fair to say that Boston at this point, of course, has ascended back to be the number one most feared team in the East. I mean, they were the number one East team on the poly market. Where was Detroit on the poly market? Hey, yo. Oh, I guess Eastern Conference. Oh, Eastern. Yeah, there we go. So the Celtics are double the odds to win the East as Detroit. And they've got Minnesota. Oh, that's Western Conference. Wait a second. So they've got just Denver, I guess, over Detroit. Detroit at 6%. And then Cleveland and New York, actually, I guess, over Houston and Minnesota. And then the Lakers at 1%. And then the Hawks. Hey, yo, shout out the Hawks. Is that why they think Trae Young's going to win MVP? Poly Market still thinks Trae Young's on the Hawks? I don't know. But, yeah, Boston, like we're saying, sitting at 11%. And Jokic sitting at 11%. So Shea just going underrated. And he's not going to be worse than, third on our player rankings as well, too. But if you asked us right now, and again, it is a little bit of the best version of both those guys. Would you rather play the best version of Tatum or the best version of Shea? I think there's no right answer there. You're going to get cooked either way. Those are both great players. But I don't think I would want to match up against the best version of Tatum at this point. I guess we don't fully know what the best version of Tatum is pre-injury, but again, he's been so consistent getting the scoring back so quickly here that it does seem like he is just going to be able to get back those numbers. And I guess his field goal percentages are a little lower, but again, just the last handful of games seems like he's been able to get that back on track a little bit. So I will go Tatum 2, SGA 3, and then I guess it gets, a little bit more biased at that point. Maybe this is where we go Jaylen Brown. Do we have to go Jaylen Brown at number 4 at this point? Again, this is not an all-NBA ranking, so even if it was, I mean, does Jaylen Brown not have a case for first-team all-NBA? Again, Boston won 56 games on the year because they were at 55 going into tonight. And then their bench somehow got a win against Orlando. So Orlando, just one of the great cases of, I think, playing to your opponent all year. Some impressive wins against some good teams. And you're just like, hey, yo, how are they losing that game? But he's 28 a game this year, Jaylen Brown. 47% from the field, 34% from 3. But 28, 7 rebounds a game, and then 5 assists a game as well, too. So 28, 7, and 5 is pretty good all-around numbers. Oh, chat. Hey, yo. We're not even going to read the injury listing. You hate to see it. I guess you get some flashbacks, obviously. It's like Celtics fans were like, we just went through this. Pause. How could this happen? But and the weird thing about Jaylen Brown's stats, I guess you could say, is... And, again, this is nothing, I guess, against him as a player because the NBA community all knows how good of a player he is. And, I mean, he literally won a Finals MVP, so there is proof that having him on a team does lead you to success. But for some reason over the course of his career, like, his advanced stats have never quite matched him to where he's been at in the league. Like, it has been drastically different. It's never been like... I guess now I'm just throwing out random numbers. I don't have all the numbers, in my mind. But, it's not like Jaylen Brown is like, we think he's the 13th best player in the league, but he's 36th in this advanced stat. It'd be like, Jaylen Brown's like the 80th player in win shares. And you're like, how is this even possible? Like, the Celtics are good. He's putting up good numbers. Like, the eye test is like, it's fine. It never really made sense for the player that he is. So I guess we could double check to see how that advanced stats case plays out. But again, what do you say this year? what do you say? He led this team in scoring. They didn't have Tatum. He has a Finals MVP, so it's like he's literally checking every box that you want. If this guy can't break into a first-team All-NBA tier at some point, then they were just awarding guys based on their 24/7 recruiting status and their drafting. And even Jaylen Brown was the 3rd overall pick at that point, and he might have been a top 10 recruit as well too. I guess we'll have to go back and double check. You end up at Cal over the course of your career. Do you get a little underrated? Obviously Mendoza, we didn't know about him until he got to Indiana and was playing for Signetti there. But I guess PER, we could see where Jaylen Brown ended up in there. And that's been the impressive thing about Shea as well too, that he's been able to match Jokic in some of these advanced stats and without the help. But Jokic, once again, number 1 in PER. It is what it is. Box score plus minus. And Shea, number 1 in the win share. So I guess that's just kind of been the way it has been for the last couple of years. But where is Jaylen Brown? Yeah, number 10 right now in PER. So wait, let's go back last year. Or 2 years ago, his Finals MVP season. And it's regular season as well too versus playoffs. So it's not always going to be perfect correlation to where the impact is, helping the team the most. But just to double check for last year, and I guess he was a little bit maybe off compared to that Finals MVP level play that we were seeing as well too, especially once we kind of got into the playoff range. But yeah, he was 54th last year in PER. So you do have like Jamal Murray down here, 55th again. Jamal Murray, classic, like we're saying, regular season to playoff, elevates the play. But clearly in a different tier of player at this point. Again, with all due respect to De'Aaron Fox. And, we've loved having him in San Antonio. Like, we love having him on a night like this where we don't have Wemby and he can be a veteran leader out there with Castle and these guys and help propel this team. Unfortunately, the game is slipping away a little bit. The Spurs are down now 15. It is what it is. But, obviously De'Aaron Fox has had his time as that number 1 guy in Sacramento. And if we had to choose to build a franchise around De'Aaron Fox or Jaylen Brown, I mean, you got to pick Jaylen Brown. It is what it is. It's kind of proven at this point that you have to pick Jaylen Brown. Again, it's one season. He's played most of his season most of his years with Tatum. And the infrastructure in Boston has been better this year than any year that De'Aaron Fox had in Sacramento. But regardless, I would say that the play that Jaylen Brown has had in his career has been slightly better than obviously 54th and a little bit above. But, we're obviously underrating the best version of De'Aaron Fox as well, too. We're just talking about, a little bit of the way they've been able to lead their team success. And PER, you do have your favoring of the, some of the centers, like Sabonis being a top 10 player in the league over the last handful of years. Got Zubats as the 11th best player in the league due to PER. So, again, it's not always going to be perfect. But you do start combining enough of them together with value over replacement player. Let's see what we've got here for last year. Where might Jaylen Brown be in this? And again, this is not a representation of him at all as a player. Like, he is definitely better than this. DeRozan, we've definitely scrolled past him. Wait, where is he? Scotty Barnes, Kevin Durant, Butler. Maybe he's higher up on the list than I'm thinking. Or he is just, unfortunately, way lower. You got Peyton Pritchard at 27, Derek White at 16, Tatum at 6 last year. So the Celtics were obviously well represented and were, a heavily winning team as well too. So, hey, where'd he go? Maybe this is the stat we're thinking of that does not correlate correctly. It is what it is. Yeah, 121st with Max Strus. He was tied with Max Strus last year, behind pause. Or I guess tied with all these guys. Yeah, tied with Max Strus, Derek Lively, Nick Claxton, Anthony Simons, Tyus Jones, DeAndre Hunter. I guess, thankfully Chet's hanging out down here as well, too. Chet can, Chet's got some all NBA level upside. Oh, Embiid, former MVP Embiid down here. Hey, we don't want that to be his new nickname, former MVP Embiid. But you just got to find your pals, I guess, at the lunch table down here when you're hanging out with the role players. It is what it is. So, Paul George that gets left out. It is. Klay Thompson's invited. So you get Klay. What was he invited to? I guess just the pickup run. I don't know. Paul George is invited as well too. We can't uninvite Paul George. But so we got Klay, Paul George, Embiid, and Jaylen Brown. Hanging out as the legendary guys in the 120s and the 150s and the value over replacement players. But, again, the advanced stats have never quite correlated there. And I think that has mattered. I think that has mattered to his case in some of the awards. But, maybe now it can finally, at least for this season, get a little bit of credit. And take some of the Tatum credit as well too. Again, 16 games. It's not like Tatum's gonna jump into the MVP conversation in 16 games, but maybe there is a little bit of awarding team success. Obviously, that's a very reasonable All NBA thing to do if a player is having a great year. So he's 21st this year in value over replacement player, literally 100 spots better. Hey, I think LaMelo Ball is also 100 spots better, so you do love to see that. And Jamal Murray 10th as well, too. I mean, Jamal Murray is going to be sneaky high up in the rankings. And again, we don't want to discredit Denver too much when we're saying, what would Denver be without Jokic? Like, they were kind of decent without him. But I think, again, if it's no Jokic tonight and no Wemby both, like, the Spurs, I think, do have an advantage at that point. But it is a good game. Again, Jamal Murray versus De'Aaron Fox. Like, who's to say that they can't be, similar levels of team success with them as the best guy? Like, I'm sure Jamal Murray could have, certain seasons where he's 40. Does he have 150-win season as the best player on a team? I think it happens. I think Murray could definitely have like a 51, 52-win season where he's leading the team. But maybe we go Jaylen Brown number 4, and then Brunson number 5, because Brunson has toasted the Spurs in the NBA. What's it called? The NBA in-season tournament this year. The Knicks, don't forget, the New York Knicks are champions. It has seemed like a while ago. Hey, I don't know if that's because of the NBA or because of other things that have been going on. But apparently it's made us forget about the fact that the New York Knicks won the in-season championship. Hey, it's not been the thing that's been on the, I guess, that's been reclaiming headlines as of late. But Brunson, as well, too, has had, an underrated MVP season in that way. And, we've looked at the Knicks stats. They definitely have a good box score this year from the team, and they're definitely getting healthy at the right time as well too. You see Miles McBride, 40 games played. He's starting to get back into the rotation. He's playing tonight. I think had 20 at one point. I guess, is that game still going, or we can see what he ended up with here. Did he lead the team in scoring? Oh no, Alvarado had 16 and led the team in scoring. I guess he didn't have 20. It is what it is. What did he have? What did I see? Did they take points away? Hey, I guess was there scandal that we missed out on? But oh no, he did have 21. So I guess they have Alvarado listed as top performer for a different reason. I don't know. Do you get the game? 7 assists as well too, 1 turnover. So 16 and 7. Yeah, it's definitely close for sure. But Alvarado as well too has been a major addition for the team, and has obviously been super impactful in New Orleans over the last couple of years. But, New Orleans has just not been a playoff level team. And I'm sure that's where he just has gone straight from New Orleans to New York, right? Hey, was there a third team in there that, okay, yeah, so I was going to say, he hasn't really had a chance yet to, impact playoff basketball. It is what it is. The 2020 New Orleans Pelicans, I'm sure it's a great opportunity. Was he undrafted or second round? No, yeah, undrafted. You're definitely going to take any minutes that the Pelicans are going to give you. But now that he has proven that he can be impactful in the NBA, the Knicks say, hey, we'll bring you in. And I think he's going to be, a guy that is going to have some playoff minutes. Probably not going to be, 6 in our playoff fear rankings. But maybe a little Caruso-esque for him. Just who is the seventh man guy that can just rip up a game and take over the bench. I think Caruso can definitely, be a little higher. He'll definitely be higher up on the fear rankings, for the playoffs than Alvarado is. But Alvarado can play, I think, a similar role, take over a similar style of way off of the bench for this team. So, and I guess we're looking at their bench as well, too, tonight. Sohan, 20 minutes from Sohan, 4 for 9. So, Sohan as your 11th man is not too bad. But, the Alvarado McBride minutes, getting that fully worked out, getting those guys back will definitely help them, a little bit of boost for the playoffs. They do need, I guess, between Mitchell Robinson and Towns, you do have some center rotation there. It does seem like they're kind of a wing forward guy short. Like if Yabusele was just a legit rotation guy for him, had been a legit rotation guy for him this year, like that would obviously be, major. And I guess the hope would be Dwara would be that. But, for the playoffs, I guess we'll have to see if he is actually a guy that is able to, end up making the rotation. I guess, again, you don't need an 8-man rotation if you're talking about, the end of the playoffs, but you do need 8 to 9 guys to get through the playoffs, I think, and, have options and different lineups. But either way, Brunson is going to be number 5. I guess we saved the right to move. I guess we don't have Luka. We don't have Luka over Jaylen Brown. Is this the team bias of it, though? If it was Luka and Tatum teamed up together, would we be more scared of that or Jaylen Brown and Tatum? I don't know. I think, Luka is obviously better at the heliocentric thing, if you want to say. Like, he's a better passer than Jaylen Brown. Like, you can't deny that. But there is definitely... But does that make him a better teammate? I mean, if you're talking about who would you rather have in the locker room? Who would you rather have in the community? I mean, I guess does this make you, a more feared player in the playoffs? But, Jaylen Brown, I guess if we're making the franchise player argument again, it is what it is. I don't know. I feel like we could have a versus, a Tatum versus Jaylen Brown versus. It is what it is. And, definitely, obviously, we can admit that we're being a little hot takey if we have Jaylen Brown over, a guy like Luka this year. Again, looking at the advanced stats, Luka was number 4 or 5 in PER, and Jaylen Brown was number 21. So again, there is just a little bit of a tier of separation. If you were making a case, could Jaylen Brown could he lead the Lakers the same way Luka leads the Lakers? But again, would that, what does that do to Austin Reeves at that point? Like, is Austin Reeves he's had a great year this year, but to see almost get a little bit better in his role without Luka, are Jaylen Brown and, and again, we tread lightly, but are Jaylen Brown and Austin Reeves less redundant than Luka and Austin Reeves? But in terms of the way that they conduct the team, they might be. And then you can have, you have like the 3-point guard factor right now with LeBron and Luka and Reeves, and that's not a bad thing. But you may have a little bit more defined roles if you bring in Jaylen Brown in that specific roster. I don't know. Again, I think it's a close case. And I think he's had a great year. And I think that he's also won a Finals MVP against Luka Doncic as well, too. So, Luka was scoring 40. We might have to do a little edit and put Luka above Jaylen Brown. But again, it's only one spot. It's close. And I am totally admitting that I am falling for, NBA groupthink. But you know what? Should we stay strong, chat? Not even because we're right, but just to be, I guess, what's the point? Is it to be right, or is it to, just have your own idea? I don't know. I guess IT, flip a coin, see what it is. But 10 free throws a game this year, 10 3-pointers a game, leads the league. Leads the league in every shot attempt category. So he should be cooking. I guess let's go per 36. Let's go per 36 and see what we got going on here. He is only slightly a slight tick up from 3 than than Jaylen Brown at this point from the percentages. He is at 47% from the field. So, yeah, 33.7 per 36. I guess, with the Stars, they're obviously going to be playing pretty close in general. I mean, Luka's going to find a way to get up, 20 shots, whether or not he doesn't need 36 minutes to get up 20 shots. But Jaylen Brown, 47 points a game. Oh, no, okay, here we go. 22 field goal attempts. It does even out. 30 a game. So it is, again, just the smidge of just the slight 3-point percentage. But really, it's the free throws as well, too. So it's the ref bias and then the playmaking as well. But he's 5.4 assists per 36 compared to, I guess, whatever Luka was at that point. Let's see if we can go back here and see. I am assuming it's going to be, at least 8.7, 8.3. I mean, still a good handful of assists, a couple more of assists more than Jaylen Brown. But can Jaylen Brown be a better defender than Doncic? I don't know. I do think that this season, again, and we literally saw Luka, be the best scorer in the league in terms of the number that he was putting up there for a second. I mean, make no mistake, Luka's bag might be a little better than Jaylen Brown. But again, do these things matter? What matters? Does it matter what we've seen, in terms of like what a player is capable of or what a player produces? Because you have to admit that at the end of the day, the production between Jaylen Brown and Luka Doncic, like with what happens with the teams, is pretty similar, if not, at the end of the day, I can kind of personally fall for, again, having, like, would I rather have Jaylen Brown as my secondary option than I would rather have Luka as the first option, if that makes sense. And again, if I have a choice where it's like, hey, you can choose. I guess we'll just bring Tatum back because I'm thinking about this. We're thinking about the Celtics right now. But if it's like, and peak Anthony Davis, I don't know. We need a second. I guess is Doncic back on the Mavs? I don't know why I just put him back on the Mavs in this scenario. Peak Austin Reeves or something. Again, maybe it needs to be a more of an equal. But I guess if the choice is, you can have Luka Doncic and a tier 2 guy, or you can have Jaylen Brown and a tier 1 guy. I think I'm taking Jaylen Brown and a tier 1 guy. Yeah, maybe I get away with the fact that Jaylen Brown's a tier 1 guy. Would you rather have Doncic and Durant or Luka and Brown? Again, I don't know. I don't know what the right comparison correlation is, but I do think that the who you want to build your team around argument. Again, I get all the things that Luka can accomplish on the basketball court and how that can be tempting for a franchise. Like, could there be seasons where a Jaylen Brown team, wins? I'm just throwing stuff out here. We're just thought experiments. I don't know if this is true. I'm not trying to put like a major losing season on Jaylen Brown's teams, but could there be a season where, he could still have a really good season? The team wins like 27 games. Like, it could happen. Again, you think that maybe Luka's going to get you more consistently, like 41 wins on the low end. And, he's got the Lakers are a shocking 50-win team this year. I bet, again, you got Reeves and LeBron there as well, too. And Bronny, Jackson Hayes. I mean, if J.J. Redick's your coach, you got to win at least 50 games, right? Hey, yo. But again, I think the high-end production is obviously pretty similar. So we'll keep it like this for now. But I think, do we have to? And we obviously have always debated Luka over Brunson as well too. But just to not get roasted too much, we'll go Doncic over Jalen Brunson there as well. So that gets us to 6. I guess, do we have to now bring in Anthony Edwards as well too? Because now I'm staring at this list going, well, wait a second, do I fear either of these guys as much as Anthony Edwards? It is what it is. And Anthony Edwards does have, it's like, what is more humiliating for Wemby potentially? Would it be Doncic, like, with the crazy step back, he's got him twirling around like Gobert type 3? Or would it be Anthony Edwards just completely destroying him at the rim, pause, for a major dunk? I do think a major dunk would kind of be a little bit more, humiliating, however you want to say it. I'm more worried about Edwards dunking on Wemby it is what it is. And he is, is Edwards going to be a 50, 40, 90 guy in his career? Like, he's been 39% from the three each of the last 2 seasons. The field goal percentage itself has gone up to 48%. And again, he's 20 field goal attempts a game as well, too. So just because Doncic is out here taking 2 more shots attempts per guys, and he can get to the free throw line, that is a skill. That's a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, James Harden. As much as there is the annoying side to that, there is the skillful side of that you do have to balance as well too. It's like Steph Curry shooting 3-pointers. You know what? Is he going to get lucky sometimes and he's going to throw one at the basket? It's going to go in? Yeah, but he's the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. So he's going to have amazing skill work that is going to, be like, how did he make that? And his ability to, I guess, get lucky is going to be different because, again, he's just going to, the muscle memory and all that stuff is going to be there. But, I don't know, pause. But regardless, and, 79%, I guess, from the free throw line is a little bit lower just in terms of the number on paper. And, again, for Edwards specifically as well, too, 3.7 assists. And I don't want to necessarily, pick and choose when to like assists. It's like Jokic averages 12 a game. It's cool. Doncic averaged 12 a game. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm not necessarily saying that Doncic's playmaking does not matter, but I do think that is a regular season thing. And I think in the playoffs, these players' ability to get the baskets one-on-one, be able to lock in a team defensive sort of way. And not to say that Luka is not going to have playoff games, obviously, where he gets 10 assists. Again, that is going to be important. Teammates making shots. But there is going to, again, be more of a relying on your best players generating buckets for themselves type of factor in the playoffs that I think that, again, to put it simply, the playmaking is going to matter less. And I think that it puts guys like Edwards and Doncic on a little bit more of an even playing field. I mean, I guess last year he was 5 assists per game, 8 assists, 6 assists. I mean, 10 and 8. Like, he can still have Doncic can still have those major assisting numbers in the playoffs. 28 and 8. It's not like he's 28, 8 and 9. It's not like he's not playmaking. Again, like, what level am I holding him to? I'm holding him to the Jokic level that he has to average a triple-double in the playoffs to be considered a good playmaker. But again, it's just like, is that going to be the one reason that I rank Doncic over Edwards? When Edwards as well, too, can lock in on defense and, take out, if he has to match up against Castle one-on-one, like, that's going to be a terrifying matchup there as well, too. And I guess Doncic does have the finals appearance. Again, we do have to give him credit there. And he did end up getting the playoff series win over Edwards as well. So even head-to-head, there is a little bit of an advantage there. But I don't know. For me personally, and maybe it's just like I don't know. I feel like Edwards' time is, if he's going to have a season, it feels like it does need to be this season. I mean, obviously Edwards could be good any year that Wemby takes over the league, but make no mistake, Wemby's taken over the league. So it just seems like if Edwards was to, get in a year where, I'll say it, he makes a title run, maybe not wins the title. Again, would I see Edwards getting a win over Boston? Would I see Minnesota beating Boston in the finals if Boston was cooking and playing the best version of their basketball? I don't quite see that. But could Edwards rip through the West? I genuinely believe Edwards could single-handedly, in a Doncic type way like we saw, and that is going to involve matchups as well too, for sure. But I think he could definitely, if healthy, rip through the West and have that type of performance. Do we see where they're looking like in the bracket right here? And OKC obviously, well, I guess nobody in the bracket right now. Playoff watch. What do we have to go for here? Projected standings. We've got OKC. Chat Jokic versus Edwards right away. So I guess that it doesn't even matter that who we have. Jokic is number one in the fear rankings anyways. So again, it is unfortunate, but it does not hurt our case in arguing Edwards amongst these guys. if we put it in a separate tier here, because again, he's going to be facing against this guy here, Jokic. So we can still argue Edwards versus Doncic, and Edwards can definitely lose in the first round. It is what it is, if that's the way that it plays out. And I think that Lakers-Rockets is a little bit better of a matchup for, the Lakers as well, too. Lakers-Denver, I mean, I'm probably taking Jokic. And Minnesota versus the Rockets, I'm probably taking Edwards in that series. Though, again, it is close. Carrying that team for sure. But, obviously, like I'm saying, I just believe in what I think he is potentially about to accomplish. And it is just that timing in his career as well, too. 24, like he's been in the league 6 years. So I know he is definitely, if we were saying prime in terms of like his age, his prime basketball age, you start thinking 26, 27 to 32, those 5 to 6 years there, or, maybe 30, maybe 26 to 33. If we were really talking about, the best years that you have in the NBA, where you're really combining the knowledge, the athleticism, and the skill, and how far can you stretch that before, the athleticism starts to take, or even just the body change that a guy has, in the late 30s. Hey, second adolescence, it is what it is. Like, you get like a little extra, dad body or whatever, you still might, again, like a guy like LeBron, he can, move into like a more powerful, explosive phase of his, not more, more explosive, but, a more powerful phase of his career instead of like a high flying phase. But he would still probably be as good of an athlete in a way. But again, it's still like a little bit of a different thing. But regardless, Edwards is still probably, he is probably like a season away from that if we are being honest. But it does feel like 6 years in the league. Like he is, ready for one more playoff moment as well too. And just how good he was in this playoff run with his shot making against Denver was, something that I feel like he's going to tap back into at some point for sure. So, I mean, hey, this is about us being honest with ourselves. Do we put Edwards above Jaylen Brown? I think we would have to. Edwards above SGA? Oh, chat, we can't do that because then it's honestly, and the problem with the ranking is my fear ranking, it almost becomes determined, like if the players saw the list, who would get more upset by where they're at on the list. So if I put Edwards, below SGA, now going forward, I'm going to be more afraid of Edwards because it's like, well, Edwards is going to be mad he's below SGA, And if I put SGA, put Edwards the other way around, then all of a sudden SGA is going to be the player I have to worry about because now SGA has the point to prove. So the ranking kind of destroys the fear ranking in itself, if that makes sense. But I guess for, again, the sake of NBA groupthink, we can't have Jaylen Brown over Doncic and Edwards over SGA. Can we? Can we, chat? Can we? Because I do think that OKC, hot take, OKC is better set up around SGA than Minnesota is around Edwards right now. But I think Edwards, Minnesota, Doncic, LA, it is close. And I mean, Edwards does have the ability a little bit to kind of fade away in some moments. And, Doncic doesn't fade away, but he can, maybe get a little cold sometimes offensively. So there is some, some potential for struggle in the playoffs for either of those guys. But regardless, and I guess we don't have Wemby on this list because we're ranking this. This is a ranking from the POV of Wemby. This is like when Kendrick does like a verse from the perspective of Tupac. We're doing an NBA ranking from the perspective of Victor Wembanyama. It is what it is. So, we've got Jokic, Tatum, SGA, Edwards, Jaylen Brown, Doncic, Jalen Brunson. And again, I don't even know if this is not even best players in the league right now. It might matter for that. We don't even have Giannis because I guess we did say if the players were in the playoffs. Do we have to have a parentheses Giannis Hey, yo. I mean, just because we love Giannis on this pod, shout out. We want Giannis still on the Spurs. I mean, the good thing is, well, I was going to say, the good thing is we don't have to trade Dylan Harper for Giannis. But, I mean, we won't. The good thing is we won't trade Dylan Harper for Giannis. I should put it that way. So, we don't want to start, giving other suggestions. But shout out, if Giannis were to join the Spurs, I mean, we'd have a second Spurs jersey on the couch. It is what it is. That would be an all-timer. The Antetokounmpo Spurs jersey. I'm back in, chat. Pause. Hey, yo. I'm getting excited for the offseason all over again. It is what it is. Now, run it back. Giannis to the Spurs storylines. And we know that Dylan Harper is good. So, it's even better this time. Pause. But who's the other major injury players that we're missing here? I know we're getting to Cade, chat. Don't worry. We're getting to Cade. We will get there. But is the fear ranking, again, from the perspective of Wemby, lower for the some of the other East guys? Like, if we think that Tatum and Brown are going to be the ones advancing through the East, is our fear ranking going to naturally be lower because we don't necessarily think we're going to be facing Cade in the playoffs? So I guess we'll have to be a little less Wemby POV, pause, in that case. And, just think a little bit more Eastern Conference in that perspective. But Cade also, is still waiting to kind of prove himself in the playoffs. He was definitely putting up good numbers against the Knicks. And that was, a real battle, a real, there is something happening here between, what Detroit is building with how competitive that series was against New York. And literally, Brunson with an excellent move on Amen Thompson to clinch that series is the only reason that, it didn't go 7 there. And he struggled from 3, but still 25, 8, and 8 is, he's obviously going to find a way to put up his numbers. 34% from 3. I guess that is the thing. Is has Cade here? Let's look. Has Cade gone on that 3-point heater yet? And not to say that, again, we literally saw Shea, Shea's not necessarily the number one 3-point. I mean, is Doncic, I guess because Cade is more of that playmaker rebounder like Doncic, maybe we expect him to, be the 34%, the 32% 3-point shooter who can just, rip off these 40% 3-point runs, if that makes sense, or, have those in crazy games. And he definitely can have, a pretty good heat check performance, but he's got, 3 games in a row here over 40%, 45% even, and then there's a third out of fourth at 60%. So if I was just trying to find what his best 3-point stretch of the season would be, he's got 3 games over 40% here, but one of them's 1 for 2, 2 for 5, and then 3 for 6. But he does also have, again, high volume games, 3 for 10, 4 for 7, 1 for 5, 0 for 4, 1 for 7. Not to overlook the 6 for 10 and the 2 for 3 the night before that. But yeah, I think it was that stretch here where he had the 50, 45, 45. Because yeah, he's 6 for 11 and 5 for 11. So he really has 2 heat check games this year from 3 back to back on the entire year. And I just think that little heat check step of offense that he needs to maybe consistently get to more often would be the thing that, again, would make him as a player more fearful. I think what he does offensively at 10 assists a game and being able to get to his 20, again, we love Cade. So Cade's not going to be crazy far down the fear rankings. We think he should be, for the season. Again, if we were just doing a normal team all NBA, he's obviously on it. It's just, the league will definitely make an exemption there for those 2 games, you would imagine, and hopefully he's still able to accomplish that. But again, you definitely can't put him over all these guys at this point, and he hasn't quite individually reached the high end offensively scoring wise that some of these guys have this year, again, as consistently. Jaylen Brown's just been a better scorer. Can Cade, again, like Doncic, can Cade do more offensively consistently than a guy like Jaylen Brown? He's going to put up more assists and rebounds in the box score. But in the playoffs, getting a bucket, Jaylen Brown has proven that he can do it at the highest level. So I guess we'll throw Cade on the list because we're talking about him here. And I imagine this is going to be, fairly close. But I'm going to just put Duren here as well, too, because every time we bring up Cade, we bring up Duren, and I think it's appropriate because I still don't really know who I would consider best player on the Pistons. Do we just put Duren over Cade again if we're going our hot take version of our list? Do we have to change the title of this to Hot Take NBA Fear Rankings? Hey, yo. The Skip Bayless NBA Fear Rankings, I guess because we don't have LeBron, so obviously now we're thinking like we're Skip. It is what it is. But we'll go Jalen Duren over Cade. Hey, yo. Again, now Cade's going to be like, well, what the heck? Now I got to just rip through the East. But I guess we got to be honest. Jalen Duren, an impactful defender and underrated, bucket getter in his own right as well, too. What's the difference between Jalen Duren and Bam? If Jalen Duren was playing the Wizards that fateful night, would Jalen Duren have got 83? He might have been able to get 83. So, I think we have to definitely give him credit for his game as well, too. But, Cade's probably going to get the higher. I mean, not probably. He will. Again, I guess he could still get. Oh, do you have to get 65 games to get MVP votes? It's like, okay, I can't vote for him number one, but you can vote for him on the ballot. Maybe that can be a rule. Maybe that could be a rule. Or like you can't make first team All-NBA. It's like 65 games is the first team All-NBA cup. It's like, hey, if you want to make second team, you can take some time off. But if you want to be on the first team All-NBA, because that does, well, I guess you'd have to maybe restructure some of the contract incentives. Because I think the contract incentives right now are just to make All-NBA in general. But you could level it up. I mean, it'd get a little too confusing, I think, at that point. So maybe we tie these guys. I guess let's just tie them. Why not? The Pistons core. Jalen Duren plus Cade Cunningham as a combo together. Because it kind of is that, honestly. If Duren, I mean, for anybody, obviously, if any of these other players got hurt, but I think those guys are kind of, intertwined a little bit more than some of the other ones with their style of play being sort of that pick and roll nature. I mean, we could bring Jamal Murray into this list as well, too. And it does get for the playoff version of this, who was obviously, again, going to be a factor in the playoffs. Like if Denver's winning multiple playoff series, then Murray is going to be, higher up on the list this year. But again, with Jokic's absence, I think we're going to get a potential All-NBA case for our guy here. I guess let's just go back to points per game just to get the list of guys up here and see. We got the Rockets guys to throw on here as well, too, with Durant and Şengün. Giannis, 36 games for Giannis, 38 for Embiid. Steph at 42 as well, too. Hey, yo. Is Booker playing tonight? Booker might have taken the night off. I think Booker might have done what we were talking about with Jokic earlier. Pause. Whoa. Hey, yo. Let's get this confirmed here. Did Booker, I guess, is he hurt? Hey, yo, maybe he is hurt, but I'd say, did he just blatantly pass up on, am I using that word right? Did he intentionally pass up on All-NBA? Hey, yo, and they're cooking the Thunder tonight. You love to see it. The Thunder only, well, I guess the Spurs are getting cooked. So the Spurs are going to be 2 games behind the Thunder. It is what it is. We could have got to 1, though. We could have got the 1 63-64. Then you really can't say, who's a better team. But I don't know if you can with 2 as well. But here, let me see. I'm trying to get confirmation on I guess we got Boya, Jamari Boya. Hopefully I'm saying that last name right. It says from San Francisco, but I'm pretty sure college. But I'm pretty sure he went to Houston as well too. Did he transfer to Houston? He might have. So he's got 22 tonight. Topic with 15. Ayo, and 8. Topic is gonna triple double watch, I guess, potentially. Oh, he's not in the game at the moment. But here, let me, I guess, just have to do a quick search on Devin Booker. This is taking longer to confirm than we thought. This is why we're not insiders, chat. Ayo, pause. Whoa, and not NBA insiders, I guess is what we mean. But, this is why we're not Woj or Shams, I guess. Nothing specific. Lakers got big news after Devin Booker announcement. Hey, yo, what's going on there? Final injury report, Suns, Thunder. Here we go. Let's see. I guess, is it going to be a time? I don't think I remember hearing him about anything with time. Yeah, it's just he's out. It is what it is. Right ankle injury management. So I guess they kind of did. Did they screw him over, chat? I mean, I feel like he's gotten several contracts and well paid. I don't think Devin Booker's been screwed over the course of his career. But 64 games played. And he will, I guess, unfortunately, or is this just not updated? Because Wemby did qualify as well, too. So maybe they just haven't quite updated yet from like Friday night's games or something. I don't know. Here, let me do one more. Let's go. Do we have to do an ESPN stat check for Devin Booker and see what we got? Can we just search him here and see how does this ESPN website work? Let's see what we can dig up here and confirm for NBA award eligibility. 26 a game. I mean, I don't know if Devin Booker would be, maybe a third team All-NBA contestant this year. Suns have obviously been, a playoff team. Per se, has 64 games played. Hey, yo, so wait, did they move it down a game? Pause. Hey, yo, they might have, because I thought they said that Wemby qualified as well, too, but it was saying there. Okay, yeah, here we go. Article. Wemby hit 65 games. So I guess it just wasn't updated for the Spurs there. 64 for Wemby as well, too. Chat, I don't know how to read. It says right here 64. Am I wrong? It says 64 for the regular season there, but this article said that he hit the 65 game mark. So I don't know. I do not know, but regardless, we'll take people's word for it that Wemby is eligible for awards this year. But regardless, here we're going back to the fear rankings. Kawhi, if we're just ranking individual players, we definitely have to consider Kawhi as well too. I mean, when do we get to a Cavs player? Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, is that going to be a revealing, part of the rankings for those guys as well too? Tyrese Maxey has been, nearly 30 a game all year. Do we have to respect him just individually? We're just talking individual players. Like, could this guy just, again, would Maxey win a series for Philly? I guess we can't write it off. If the Spurs were playing Philly, I don't know, again, if I would be scared about Philly as a whole. And I don't, Maxey could definitely put up some good points for sure. Again, I don't know if he would be even ranked above Mitchell at this point. But Mitchell is also, a little bit more proven in the playoffs. Is Mitchell higher up in the fear rankings than the Cade? I guess the Cade Duren combo. Now we have to start doing combos to match. It is what it is. Okay, so I guess shout out to Jalen Duren. But I think that Cade does have to go, before him on the list. It is what it is. So here, we'll go Cade one spot over Duren for now. And then I think Mitchell, but we were saying Mitchell over Cade for now, because Mitchell can have some crazy playoff performances. And Mitchell over Brunson, you could even make that argument as well, too. I don't know, Brunson gets the New York bump. Hey, yo, Donovan Mitchell, this is why he should have gone to New York in the first place. But here, we'll go Donovan Mitchell over Cade and over Duren, over both of the Pistons guys. I don't know. Wait, how far down the list was he? He's, obviously pretty close here. We'll get the advanced stats back up. What's Donovan Mitchell's VORP compared to Cade's VORP? I think they were both pretty high up on the list here. Oh, Durant. We forgot about Durant again as well, too. Wait, who's sitting at a 4.9? Was that Derek White? 4.9 VORP? Oh, Tyrese Maxey. 4.9 as well, too. Hey, he's making his case. He's working his way back up the list. And again, he hasn't really had the playoff run. Number 6 in VORP this year. Hey, Tyrese Maxey. Okay. So again, I know obviously he's going to get the All-NBA consideration. We just haven't quite had him be, this guy in like a playoff series yet. So we just don't really know what that looks like. I guess that mystery, I guess for some reason it doesn't worry us. Hey, yo. I guess, do we think it's more impactful than a series than Wemby? Is that what we're worried about? And maybe that's the part of this list that does matter a little bit. Like, these guys could still be more impactful than a series than Wemby. I don't know. Could Donovan Mitchell be more impactful than a series? Could Cade be more impactful than a series than Wemby? He might be able to. And I think Mitchell could as well, too. From a scoring standpoint, you would definitely have to get him that credit there. I mean, come on. The man's, at his best, been a 30-point-a-game playoff scorer. So there is some, obviously respect that you have to give there. Jalen Johnson, 12th in VORP. Hey, yo. He might be next up he might be number 2 on the list. Jalen Johnson or Tatum. It is what it is. I don't know if we have to pause that or not. I guess, did we say Jamal Murray? We didn't put Jamal Murray on the rankings. Ooh, Jamal Murray or Jalen Duren. Again, Jamal Murray maybe directly creates a little bit more offense than Duren does, but Duren, with the defensive ability and the rebounding, is definitely a menace as well, too. I don't know. Maybe I just like Duren more as a player. That's a close one, but I really respect what Jamal Murray has done in the playoffs. So we'll give Jamal Murray, and I would almost be tempted to put Jamal Murray over Cade as well, but I guess we'll just, leave it like this for now. Pause. This kind of keeps them all, in the same range, close enough. Oh, Steph, chat. They just cut to Steph. It is what it is. Is Steph even going to make the rankings? I mean, is Steph going to be an impactful playoff player? Is Steph going to be a parentheses guy? They're going to be a play-in team. They're battling the Clippers right now, up by 1. So if they beat the Clippers and the Blazers win, they play the Blazers in the playoffs or in the play-in, which I guess the Blazers are going to win because they're playing the Kings. Hey, yo. So I guess, are the Kings going to try to, steal one last game? Are they going to try to get to 23 wins on the year? The MJ? I don't know. But I would assume that Portland is able to close this one out. Clifford with a little 20-piece. 8 and 10. Renaud to the bench. Is Renaud too good? So Clifford, first-round pick from OKC. Hey, yo. Did they find a couple guys, Clifford and Renaud? Imagine. Sacramento doing some scouting. Who knew? Get Dembasta in there. Boozer, Clifford, and Renaud. Ooh, chat, that's a team. That's a team right there. But wait, where's Cam Boozer on this list? Where is Cooper Flagg on this list as well, too? I don't know. Scotty Barnes is 11th in VORP as well. So maybe this is one of these playoffs that is a little bit of a globe shake for the league as well. I guess they do have Jamal Murray, over Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes over Edwards in VORP? Hey, yo. 3.5 in 60 games for Edwards, though, more games played for Scotty Barnes. We go box plus minus here. And see, we got Wemby 3rd in box plus minus, Doncic 4th. Yeah, I guess Cade is 6th in box plus minus. And then Maxey is 7th. So do we have to put Maxey over Jamal Murray? I don't think we quite can because of Murray's playoff success. But Maxey is definitely like number 1 on the watch list to move up and could definitely jump any of these guards. Could he jump Brunson? That's seeming like it's getting into a little bit of a different tier at that point. But, just in terms of what we think of these guys as playoff performers. But the stage is definitely set there. And wait, where were they at for the playoff watch as well, too? Just even if it's like, what could Maxey be capable of as an individual performance? As just like what could be entertaining for the first round of the playoffs? Tyrese Maxey just going for 33 a game. So we have, I guess, them in the play-in right now. Orlando versus Philly. Hey, yo. So, I mean, this might be a good lower-end example of the fear rankings because Paolo might not make an appearance, with all due respect to Paolo and our guy Franz. We love the Magic core in the past, but I would assume that Maxey could be good enough to win that game on his own. I mean, Bane and, like we're saying, the Magic can play to their opponent. So they might be able to just win this game by, like, 7 points. I guess it's like an okay amount. But, regardless, they could still be able to get this one. But I would pick Philly in this. So then maybe they want to lose, though. If you're Philly, do you want to lose and play Detroit? Because the 7th seed has to play Boston. So if you're Philly, maybe you just go play the rival and just say, hey, it is what it is. You just fall on the sword. But I guess, are you not rivals with Detroit? Not like you are with Boston, of course. And unfortunately, the 6th seed is out. So I think Philly might just go home. It is what it is. Charlotte versus Miami as the 8-9. This might be the greatest play-in game of all time. Whoa, chat. We might have to go to break real quick and process this. Hey, yo, when we come back, we might have to preview the greatest play-in matchup ever. LaMelo Ball versus Bam Adebayo. 83 points versus, 83, what do you say, car crash? I don't know. It is what it is. And LaMelo, Bam, that's must-see TV. So we'll keep going through the playoff rankings, the playoff picture as we, wrap up the NBA regular season here. I guess the fourth quarter. We're going into the fourth quarter on some of these games. So, regular season winding down, chat. Stay tuned. We got the whole playoff picture right here, right after this. All right, chat, we're back. We may have to pick up the pace a little bit with the list. Have we even made it to an All-NBA team yet? I don't know if this is what that, if these are the names that would make up that team, but I don't even know if we have enough guys. We're getting close, though. Third team, we got 2 more to go before we get to All-NBA. Hey, yo, so we're just going to start ripping through. And, we're going to immediately add Carter Bryant as the next guy because he's got very productive 3 quarters underway here for San Antonio tonight, and a nice little dunk on Nikola Jokic. So shout out Carter Bryant, a 7-5-5. I guess the Ben Simmons. It is what it is. Hey, I'm not saying. I guess Ben Simmons was definitely more of a primary creator than Carter Bryant was, but the similar impact. Carter Bryant, a much better 3-point shooter as well too. Not even a joke. It is what it is. The jumper legitimately looks pure. We love the jumper. And the thing about that dunk on Jokic as well, too, is it was just a straight-up dunk. Like, it was a standing dunk from right under the basket. Just jumped up and just dunked on him. Didn't, get momentum diving downhill. Jokic just, rotating over out of position, and you're just like, oh, well, caught him in sort of an unlucky moment. He just took him to the basket and just dunked on him. Carter Bryant. Ayo. So, I think that, the fun thing about this... Oh, chat! The Castle to Bryant lob. We've cut it to 6. It is what it is. I mean, it's literally going to be. It's going to be the rookies and the young guys that are going to be the team that if we, De'Aaron Fox as well too. But I remember, watching the team this year. You're watching it thinking, Harrison Barnes is a good rotation piece. He's an impactful veteran that okay, Harrison Barnes and Wemby, they might be able to do something in the playoffs. Carter Bryant's going to be the guy. It is what it is. It's just clear when he's out there that, I don't even know what the advanced stats are. Oh, Chad, he needed to make that. That would have really improved our point right there. It is what it is. Harrison Barnes is making it back in the lineup. I guess that would be the thing. Harrison Barnes is more consistent for 3. And you know what? Those individual skills do matter. They do matter. But Carter Bryant is, and that's having Wemby out there as well too, a little bit more boost on the offense. But I mean, it's clear that Bryant is just a box scorer. You want to say a game changer when he's in the game, but he's a very impactful role player when he is in the game. So I think he's going to be a legit playoff rotation guy for him, obviously. And Harper as well too. It could legitimately be, finals lineup is Wemby, Castle, Harper, Bryant, and then Fox at that point. But there might even be a rookie that they're able to trade it as well, too. I guess, Fox. I guess Champagnie. How many years has Champagnie been in the league? If we're just going, the youngest possible finals winning team. Because that OKC team last year, I think, did actually accomplish that. And listening to Rosillo's pod as well, too, a couple this was one of the old episodes I was listening to, but he was, I don't know, I guess the Thunder have gotten older since then, but at the time he said their roster, the average youngest age of their roster, or I guess just the average age of their roster is the proper way to say it. The average age of their roster was younger than last year, and last year was the youngest team ever to win the finals. So they would technically be it would be their second finals, and they would technically, I guess, be the youngest team to ever win the finals. So I don't really know how that would work. Again, in theory, because, I mean, we do know how it works. Some of the veterans at the end of the bench get replaced with rookies, though your main rotation guy changes. Your main roster changes, does not change, and, the average age overall. Because it is, only 1 year, but if you're cutting, even 10 years, I don't know how many years they lost off the end of the bench, but you're bringing in guys like McCade and stuff and AJ Mitchell and relying on them more, those are obviously... younger guys as well too. But regardless, the San Antonio team, I imagine just that lineup would be in contention because again, you've got Wemby in year 3, Castle in year 2, and Carter Bryant in year 1, and Dylan Harper in year 1. So if all 4 of those guys were, if those 4 guys and Fox were the finals guys, and Fox is Fox even 30 himself as well too? So I don't know. Do we have to? I don't know why I just thought about that. Do you win the finals? I guess you do because the Spurs won the finals and they had all guys that were 30. I guess that's why that was so surprising. I don't know why we looked up DeMar DeRozan again. Who are we even looking up? Oh, De'Aaron Fox. Hey, yo, shout out to DeMar DeRozan, though. we've just been thinking about it because of the scoring thing that we mentioned earlier. It is what it is. And, De'Aaron Fox is a guy that could make his way back up the playoff rankings as well, too, if they do end up needing his scoring. But, again, it feels like De'Aaron Fox is almost willing in a way to delegate to Castle at those times when he needs to, and understands that, Castle has, abilities to get to the basket and create his own shots and score for the team just as efficiently almost as he can, especially, since he's not, they both are similar three-point shooters, and they kind of rely on, the mid-range, Fox in the mid-range, Castle getting to the basket. So they're going to be generating the same amount of offense at the end of the day. If he's willing to delegate and if the efficiency is the same there. But, again, obviously with his veteran status in the league, 28, like he is in those prime years that we were talking about where he, that is definitely going to be important. I'm sure in the playoffs at some point. I mean, back-to-back years of 25, 26 was still 25 a game in Sacramento last year when we traded for him, and was 47% from the field, third, again, always a little bit lower from three. It is what it is, 32% from three, still 48%, just the lower shot attempts. And when those lineups reduce, I think it will be, the three-man offense that we see there. And, Fox is a third guy I think is going to be important. I mean, do we have to throw another guy in the rankings at some point? Is it going to be De'Aaron Fox? I think, do we just throw Castle in the rankings to be biased? I don't know if Castle is making all NBA, but Duren definitely could. Again, did Duren play enough games? I think, do we have to confirm a Cade exception at this point? But we'll just put him in. Oh, it's E-N-A-O. Our bad. No disrespect to the Duren family name there. That is obviously our fault for not spelling that properly. But let's see here. We've got him at 70 games played, 19 points a game this year. So he is, a 20-point a game guy. I know that can be a little bit different with him, getting shots being generated from some of the guards. But still, he can get a little bit of a bucket in his own right, and 10 a game as well, too. Dwight Howard Light is obviously a compliment, but I think he's at that level. I think it's pretty close. Like, again, I'm saying, is he pretty close to Dwight Howard Light? Like, again, Dwight Howard himself was a guy that took a team to the finals and is like an underrated, not underrated, but, the impact that his 20 and 10 and his two-way play had. Again, it was literally championship level in some seasons. And, in fairness, like, you have to give him credit, like, outdueled LeBron in a playoff series. It is what it is. Early Cleveland LeBron getting outdueled by Dwight Howard and Rondo in, a couple of playoff series there is, definitely interesting. And then JJ Barea, like, what's the run there for LeBron? Hey, it is what it is. But, second in MVP voting as well, too, that 1 year. So I don't know if Duren, again, is going to get to those type of levels. And that would be, again, just look at Dwight, a menace on the rebounds, even more so. One of the great rebounders of this century, for sure. You can't say one of the great rebounders of all time, because once we bring in the 19th century, anyway, did they have, I guess, people have been rebounding all time, but, they didn't have basketball rebounds in the 19th century, traditionally. Maybe a couple at the end there. I don't know, when did Naismith hang up the peach baskets? I think that might have been in the 1900s. So the 20th century, but if we include the 20th century in the rebounders, then, we go way back. Obviously, it's like, okay, some of those guys are putting up, 20 rebounds a game. It is what it is. Even, some of the forgotten names, like how many rebounds a game was Nate Thurman putting up? Like, nobody can touch Nate Thurman's rebounding numbers from back in the day. But maybe, Dwight, 14, 13, 13, 14, 13, 14, crazy stuff. But could get his 20 a game there as well, too. I guess, Duren is slightly more efficient than Dwight. But Dwight, 3 blocks a game in Wemby territory for the defense. Has anybody gotten to the level where the players are changing their minds on the drives? But, in terms of just guys getting swatted going to the basket, like Dwight Howard was going to block the shot. It is what it is. So, I think, again, we're pro Jalen Duren on the pod. And if we're going the old school center way as well too, then that really changes the entire All-NBA lineup because, what do you do with Wemby and Jokic at that point? Again, I don't know if either of those guys have had enough forward minutes. You could make the case maybe that Jokic is a forward and just his versatility of play, but you couldn't necessarily make the case that he's a forward in the Denver Nuggets lineup because he just is their center. And Wemby is, obviously I guess, maybe the case that Wemby's playing forward. Yeah, but he's never actually been technically listed as like the power forward next to like Luke Kornet, where they've done, a weird thing. Would Popovich, have technically like listed Wemby as the power forward in some of the lineups and then be like, or has Wemby didn't like play a couple minutes with like Bismack Biyombo or something where again, it's just like technically he's playing power forward. They do have him listed again in the lineup as center and power forward, but it would be probably Wemby, Jokic, and then you would have to consider Towns as well too. And let me see if I'm leaving out any center names. But I think, again, considering the success that Detroit has had this year, I think that Duren is a pretty safe option for that bet. I guess, yeah, Embiid, unfortunately Embiid didn't play enough games. But if he had, now we'd be having a totally different conversation. And, Giannis gets into the forward club as well, too, if he is healthy and playing a full season. So you could make the exception there. And I'm sure the league, again, would not mind to make an exception to have Wemby and Jokic on first team. But they in the past had it with Doncic or with Wemby and with, not Wemby, or not Doncic either, with Jokic and Embiid for those guys having to battle it out for first and second team and then battling it out for MVP as well too. But yeah, just in terms of the box score plus minus, he's the second technical center, or the third technical center listed behind Wemby and Jokic there. So he might actually, I guess if Sengun, but you could probably make a more legit forward case for Sengun as well too. And then Towns, and then Klingon. If we're going box score plus minus, Donovan Klingon is the fourth best center in the league. But then Nemias Queta is for Boston as well too. I mean, he's had a really productive year. Is Queta the seventh best center in the league? Hey, I guess Mamashvili is technically a center. Is Queta better than Jared Allen right now? Hey, I guess where's Hartenstein as well too? Bam! Oh, Chet. Hey, Bam! And the box score plus minus. He's averaging 83 points a game, and somehow Klingon is more impactful. What's going on there? Hey, but I mean, I don't think that you would necessarily have a debate this year for Duren versus Bam. With all due respect to Bam, again, he's not that much better. If you take away the 83 point a game, is he averaging more points than Duren is? And we love Bam. 20 and 10. So his rebounding has definitely been better this year for sure. I guess 9.6 last year. He was right there. It's fine. But still, for him as a center, it is not. I guess every other year he's got to go between 10 and 9 rebounds. It is crazy that I guess he's literally consistently alternated since the 19-20 season there. So again, he has been consistent in that way. So lock it in next year. If Bam Adebayo's over-under is 10 rebounds, take the under. It will be. They're probably in the know. It is what it is. They'll have it set like right at 9.3 or something like that. But either way, I guess Bam does not have the team success case that Miami has. And, do you say that Detroit is a better roster than Miami? I don't know. It is close. Cade versus Norm Powell. If you take both of those guys off the roster, I guess it's Dennis Jenkins versus, Jaime Jaquez at that point. And Dennis Jenkins obviously has been very productive. I mean, even the defensive wings they have as well, too, with Amen Thompson and Ron Holland and Tobias Harris having a, productive veteran season for him there. But, again, it is, I think, Duren's impact that is able to anchor that lineup with and without Cade as well, too. I think it is what it is. I think at this point, he is just slightly more defensively impactful than Bam, though. And, again, I think it's really close for those guys as scorers as well, too. So we do have to add Bam, and we have to add Norm Powell to the playoff fear rankings here. Shout out to our guy Norm Powell. Hopefully he gets back and playing for the playoffs. Of course, just completely missing the last half of the regular season here is unfortunate because he might have been able, if Miami had been able to be like a top 5 team, in the East, maybe one of those guys are able to make an All-NBA case. And I guess Reeves as well too. They just showed Doncic and Reeves in this Spurs game. I don't know why. Hey, is this not even having an MVP argument? They just have to show a Lakers graphic during a Denver Spurs game? Get out of here. What's up with that? But I guess we could add Reeves to the ranking. Reeves over Adebayo and Norm Powell? Oh, Chad, I don't know. Reeves over Adebayo. Now we're just in tiers. Not in tiers, but like we're just ranking the players in tiers at this point. Hey, the rankings are so confusing that we're breaking down emotionally. We can't figure it out. It is what it is. But I think we would go Bam over Austin Reeves. Oh, Chad, it is close. Pause. Hey, Austin Reeves he's been a legit, tier. Do you say tier 2 scorer? If tier 1 is like the 30 a game, the guys that could consistently average 30 a game, Austin Reeves again has been consistently 24, 25 point a game scorer this year. So I think he does provide a little bit more there than Bam in the playoffs. Now, Bam, we do also, we've seen proof of concept of him being that number 2 guy on a finals team. So, and because it's the bubble, it's not legit. Hey, I guess because of that, he has been on a finals team. So, Bam now over Austin Reeves, I guess is the proper ranking. We'll do that. But maybe it's projection of what we think it's going to happen in this playoffs. I don't know if Bam's necessarily going to, have a 25 point a game playoff run. I don't know if Bam's going to make it out of the play-in. Are we more worried about Bam or Con Knuckle? Bam or LaMelo Ball as well too? Maybe that's the other combo. Pause. We had Jalen Duren and Cade. Maybe it's a LaMelo Con Knuckle combo. And I mean, Con is definitely, Knuckle is definitely the guy that he's the most versatile player on that team where you could immediately drop him into the most rosters in the league. I mean, Brandon Miller does have that skill set as well too. It's just Con Knuckle over the course of the season has been a little bit more efficient than Brandon Miller has. So you would, if you're a team, you would just want to gravitate toward that. You would, of course, I guess, have the two-way impact that Brandon Miller could generate there as well. But, obviously the infatuation with offense, it is what it is. Even with Wemby making the case for defense out there, I guess Con Knuckle is going to be the one that, at this point, is going to get a little bit more of the fear ranking status, per se, than Brandon Miller would. But LaMelo is still the leader of that team. And I think Knuckle does need a lead point guard in that way. I mean, he was definitely doing lead guard stuff at Duke, but he also had Cooper Flagg as well, too. So there was a your turn, you could say a 1-2 combo for sure. Pause, but maybe a little bit more of a your turn, my turn situation, or Knuckle being able to play offense. I mean, and it's just Knuckle as that connector is so efficient. I don't know if Devin Booker is the right comparison here, but Devin Booker has been that guy over the course of his career where it's been like, well, can Devin Booker be, the lead point guard on a team? Can he run an offense? It's like, yeah, Devin Booker can absolutely run an offense. But if Devin Booker is playing next to another, I guess Chris Paul is when we've seen him at his best. But even if, Kevin Durant, another lead scorer, and he has the ability to move into some off-ball stuff as well, too, and be a connector, movement, gravity type guy. I mean, again, Booker's like such a great isolation scorer as well, too. It's not the perfect combo. But it's like, yes, could Con Knuckle probably be the lead guard? And maybe not year 1, but, could Con Knuckle year 4 be the lead guard on like a 47-win team? Yeah, probably. But obviously, as the number 2 on a 43-win team, the team's getting worse. But, obviously, again, he's a rookie now as well, even though he's putting up great numbers. But could he be the number 2 on a team that is, winning the title? I think it could be legitimately a number 2, I guess, maybe a number 3. Because I think he could he offensively someday be a little bit Klay Thompson? Again, that Klay Thompson Booker level of offense, I guess that is another tier to break into. But he's not, even Booker defensively in some of those playoff series was really able to lock in. Like, I don't know if Con Knuckle is going to get to that level, so maybe that's where he needs to be, the level 3. And, LaMelo's not a great defender himself as well, too. So it is the collection of the offense that is overwhelming, obviously. And we're talking about the 9 seed, I guess, in the Eastern Conference. But I would say that individually, I would fear those guys, I guess, more than Orlando. I mean, it is what it is. Orlando as a team, they're just not – they might be the lowest feared team in the league. I don't know if there's – I just think that no team is worried about playing that team. I think you do respect how good that – they are at basketball. Like, again, Paolo is good at basketball. Franz is good at basketball. Bane is good at basketball. But just this year, for some reason, it has not worked. And there is no real, again, spark, I think, that they have that shows that, they can lock in, especially in a series sense, if you were, like, a really, focused, and especially, like we're saying, some of these higher-end teams. Could they – is – again, Paolo versus LaMelo, Franz versus Brandon Miller, Desmond Bane versus Con Canepo. Like, you could legitimately make the case that Orlando has the better basketball player in every situation, and that might be enough in that type of series to win. But, again, they're supposed to be a team that, at the best level of themselves, they could be competing. Is it fair to say that they should be competing for the Eastern Conference? At least making waves, right? Hey, yo. Like, wave check for the Orlando Magic. Unfortunately, it was disappointing this year. It is what it is. Like, they should be a team that Boston looks at as like, we don't want to play that team. I think it's totally the other way. Again, Detroit, it's like, please, like, we want to play Orlando. The offense has been dysfunctional. They are still are they the worst offense in the league? Hey, yo. It is what it is. Again, you still have the ability to have good performances, and I guess the defense in that case is good enough to at least get you a winning record, but that is not the formula for winning a playoff series. Again, I don't know if 45 wins is shocking. It is shocking, but I don't know if it's shocking good or shocking bad. Like, the swings here on the graph are pretty crazy. This one stretch, I guess, where they were winning some games kind of by not a lot, but even then they've always lost games bad, I guess, is the point as well, too. How many close losses have Orlando had? So, I don't know. What does that mean? If they're in a close game, do they win? If we look at their clutch stats, would they be, like, surprisingly good? I don't know. But some Jet Howard minutes. Maybe there is, like, do they need to just figure out what the roster is? But they probably should have done that over the course of the 82 games. At 31% from 3 for Powell this year. It is what it is. Franz, 34%. Unfortunately, it just seems like he's kind of that 3-point type of shooter for his career there. And, Anthony Black, Wendell Carter, Jalen Suggs has been, that's when they were at their best as well, too, is really when Suggs was at his best offensively. So he might be one of the underrated, impact MVP guys in the league. I don't know, MVP is the right term, but, again, it seems like the Magic have kind of gone where Suggs have gone, more so than, where Paolo has influenced them with his play. But yeah, Paolo below Bam in the fear rankings would be crazy. Paolo below Austin Reeves again would be crazy, because Paolo, you think, could take over a game more. But if it's Paolo and I don't know if I'm necessarily more worried. Now we're really hot take. Am I more worried about Paolo and Doncic or Paolo and or Reeves and Doncic? Like, for this year, I don't know if, again, the Lakers are better. Now, they're probably making that trade just because of what you have to do, I guess, logistically from a basketball standpoint. But I don't know. Salary stuff, do you talk yourself into not making that? But maybe Paolo over Norm Powell, even though we are, pro Norm Powell on this pod as well, too. But that might have to be a fair ranking there for now. But Bane has legitimately, like, been their best player in 81 games. Hey, yo, maybe we put Bane up here on the fear rankings. But Bane below Austin Reeves, though. Bane or Adebayo, definitely still obviously not in the All-NBA, conversation Duran tier quite yet. But and I do think that for Bane specifically, that the Magic here are weighing him down. Hey, yo, I can't speak and type at the same time, apparently. But, yeah, we are going to have him below Austin Reeves. in this ranking in this case. So those might be the only two Magic that make an appearance. And again, Paolo, respectfully, it is just that it passed status, but Paolo's a good player as well too. It's just the expectations that we have for his game. That's all. Just those feisty expectations, Chad, that get in the way. Hey, we still are leaving out the Rockets guys. Where's Durant? I guess Durant does have to be all NBA, right? Durant or Cade? Durant or Murray? Durant or Maxey? Durant or Duren? Am I getting crazy to think that I'd be more worried about Duren than Durant? Again, from a shot-making standpoint, you can't say that you're more worried about Duren scoring more points on your team than Kevin Durant. But is Duren going to have an effort level there? And Durant second in minutes in the season this year as well, too. I mean, shout out at 37 years old. Didn't LeBron just have that season a couple years ago where he was like way up in minutes? I could be totally wrong here. Let's double check and see minutes per game. I don't know. Games played. What was going on? Or he's just old and still playing. Something's happening there. But, Durant's entering really old man territory and still playing well. And Durant's not getting the old man credit that LeBron is getting. It's almost a credit to Durant, I guess. He did have, I guess the most that LeBron got was 71, but that's still pretty good. You're like, hey, LeBron at 71. He's back. 71 and 70 after, and that is, a surprising string of lower seasons there as well, too. Thank goodness they didn't change the rule. 55, 45. Did LeBron make All-NBA at 40? Oh, I guess, shortened season. It is what it is. But 56, 55, and then back to 71 and 70. So, again, the whole time it's like, well, Jordan at 37 was washed and out of the league. Like, look at what LeBron is doing at 37. Look at what Durant is doing at 37. Again, now look at what LeBron did from 18 to 37. As well too. Like, we're not denying the basketball careers here, and I'm not saying that the last 4 to 6 years that Durant would put him above LeBron from a legacy standpoint. I guess we'll see how crazy this Rockets playoff run is, but Jabari Smith as well too. I guess that does show you the reliance on their starters, and it would be funny that, Durant in a season, in an era where, again, all these guys are getting the criticism for the load management and for not playing. These Rockets guys are out there actually playing, and it's like, well, they're actually playing too much. Like, I don't know if you actually want 3 of your 5 guys to be 3 of the 5 most played guys in the league. Like, that's some, like, Tom Thibodeau type stuff right there. So I don't know if the Rockets are going to have the gas. Like, there is actually, like, it's just, there is a balance. It's like, yes, maybe don't take, if we play 82 games, again, if you're playing 55 games, don't take almost 30 games off. Like, that is, what do we talk? I can't do percentages. We're not Wemby over here, but don't take 40% of the time off. But if we play 82 games and you play 72 games, I mean, that still feels like a pretty reasonable amount. Even, again, 65. And I know a lot of the injuries have been inevitable. That is totally understandable. I get that. But again, the other way is, I don't know if you want your entire starting lineup as the most played guys in the league. That is, a little bit extreme there as well too. But you do have to give Durant credit for playing 78 games and, playing the minutes as well too. Because who else do we see? We saw, I guess Bane was second in minutes played there, or third in minutes played, and he had a couple more games. But Durant, a couple more minutes, just, obviously over the course of the season. 36 a game this year is still obviously awesome. 52% from the field, 41% from 3, 26 for the season. I guess we can check the latest playoff here. The numbers, I guess, were fine. It's just the vibe of the Phoenix thing was so, up and down. And the vibe of the Brooklyn thing was so up and down. I guess that's the problem is, it's like, what's been the Durant vibe going into some of these playoffs? There was that one that, was really competitive, and they had a couple of great games there versus Denver. But unfortunately, for them, Denver was the better team that year. And this has been, for the most part, like on the Durant, I guess it hasn't been a drama-free year. Like, he had a burn. The problem is the league was so crazy this year that the Durant year felt like a drama-free year. But, it was just like another, more burner accounts and more, what is he saying bad about his teammates? And I guess, again, it's just the Durant story at this time. The man has burner accounts. The man's just not going to be happy. We get it. It is what it is. But even, 40 minutes a game in the playoffs as well, too, recently. Like, Durant plays. Like, this is, the man is racking up the minutes here. Shout out. So, obviously he's had his moments of missing time as well, too, which is kind of checked him from an all-time standpoint if we were talking all-time minutes and even, where he could be. If he has another season here for scoring and he's got, 35 games played here in 21, 22 as well. Yeah, I guess we're still not considering the shortened season, but he has 27 here in 14-15 as well, too. So, there has been some significant time missed over the course of his career there. But, yeah, I just don't know if Durant is going to – and – it is what it is. For Durant, we haven't seen him as the main guy. Again, ripped through the playoffs, like we're saying, that Phoenix team was pretty close, but he had Booker, who had proof of concept with him as a player himself. And, that Brooklyn team was awesome, but that Brooklyn team was a team of the past at this point. And definitely a great season to go back and look at and be like, oh, what happens if they win that series? It's important, obviously, for Giannis's legacy. Did Giannis steal Durant's title? Durant was 34 a game in the playoffs that year, 51% from the field, 40% from the three, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. He was just, that's arguably the best that Durant has ever been in any series. What he was doing against LeBron as well, too, is difficult to argue against, but that was just a crazy level of play. And as good as he is now, and not to say that he still can't be great, all that stuff. But again, you can't say that he is the Brooklyn in that Brooklyn phase of his career. I don't know if I'd be worried about Brooklyn Durant. Maybe I have to be worried again about a whole new Rockets, older version of Durant, a whole new team around him, like with Sengun and Thompson and Smith. This is a really good supporting cast. But, again, the depth is a little bit of a weakness there. If we're talking San Antonio specifically, they definitely have them, and the Rockets might be a matchup team in the playoffs. So, if Amen Thompson was a little bit higher up on the rankings, that would definitely be, a missing piece in a little bit of a way. And if Sengun was, higher up on the likability rankings for Durant maybe as well too. I don't know if Durant and Sengun get along, but I guess we can have Durant below Duren on the playoff fear rankings, but this still puts him in the All-NBA rank because Duren was at 13. So Durant's now at 14. Durant's All-NBA. And that means Sengun's not going to be All-NBA, I guess. But I guess, apologies to Sengun. It is what it is. And I guess we do have Castle. Well, I guess Giannis is technically not going to be All-NBA. And then we do have Wemby as well, too. We got to put Wemby number 1. But again, it's just because it's Wemby POV. Pause. Whoa. Hey, yo. It is what it is. But the ranking from the perspective of Victor Wembanyama is what we mean. We do have to clarify. So I guess we do have Wemby in the Giannis spot. So now we are at 13 All-NBA spots. Here, let me double check the Durant spot. Because, again, Giannis technically doesn't count. So, yeah, 14. 14 All-NBA spots. Sorry to Bam, but we know he's not making All-NBA. It is what it is. Yeah, Mitchell's there. I guess how many? James Harden going to be on All-NBA? I'm just thinking Cavs players who are higher ranked teams here that are getting off the list. Maybe Reeves is going to have a case if the Lakers are up there. I guess we do have Murray represented, so they are fine. The Thunder may be struggling with their missed games. I guess the Rockets, as the 5 seed, would the 5 seed have 2 All-NBA players? I don't know. The 1 seed Pistons. Why can't Castle be an All-NBA player? Hey, yo. Is Castle not better than all of these guys? I guess it is what it is. You start going through the 3-point numbers. I get it looks a little sketchy, so maybe it just results, again, to, Booker at that point, or, who were the status guys in the league. But I guess, like we said, Booker was missing time. So wait a second. We got to go back to our trusty stats here and see what we have got. I guess Scotty Barnes. Do we have to have a Raptor on All-NBA? But this is now the fear ranking correlation. I guess the Hawks, Jalen Johnson, did have a better season than the Raptors. We do have a New York Knick. I guess we didn't have Towns. on the fear ranking quite yet. But would we be more afraid of Towns or Jalen Johnson? I do think Towns does need a little bit of respect as a playoff player as well, though. Again, I don't know if he would be in that Jaylen Brown. Could he be that quote-unquote number 2 guy, but is also maybe the number 1 guy and could win the Finals MVP? I guess he could win a Finals MVP, but it would, again, be a little bit more of a reach for me than seeing Jaylen Brown do it. But then again, maybe I thought, maybe I'm just, hindsight is 2020 there as well, too. But maybe I'd be more afraid of Towns over Durant in a playoff series. I don't know. Again, Towns is really competed against Jokic defensively. Like, you got to give him, like, he was up for the match there. And just, I know that, like, Randall in the past hasn't always had, the greatest playoff numbers for that New York team if we're talking about what they've been able to get from that forward spot specifically. But I think that, Karl Towns is a little bit underrated playoff-wise in that aspect. But I think for now, we'll just go ahead and, have Durant, the legacy guy there, over him for now. Pause. But I guess, we do have representation now for Karl Anthony Towns on the list here. So let's go back and sort. I guess we did like box plus minus a little bit better, whichever one proves our point, because this one has LaMelo as an All-NBA player at number 12. It does have Chet, and Chet at 69 games played as well, too. Chet, Jalen Johnson, Denny Advia, Sengun as well. So I guess we can put Chet on the list. Chet versus Banchero. Hey, yo. I don't know if that means that Chet is over him in the redraft, but at least for this year. And Chet over Bane as well, too. Chet over Reeves. Ooh, Chet. Hey, yo. Chet and Reeves is a battle. I think Chet over Bam. Bam can get 83 points, so we might have to take Bam if that's the case. I mean, OKC would definitely not do that trade, even if it was just for a game. So I guess if that's the case, they may trade Towns, though, for Chet. They would definitely have to consider that. So I don't know. Chet over Bam. Miami wouldn't trade Bam for Chet, though, would they? Would they? I mean, you can't now because, again, it's like, well, I guess at any point if we're playing the Wizards, Bam could get 83. But I don't know. Chet could also get 83 against the Wizards as well, too. So we'll put Chet over Austin Reeves for now. And I guess we're not considering Jalen Williams as well, too, because he has been hurt for quite a bit this year. I guess he might be one of the guys that is hit here in the non-qualifiers. We can double check that out. Oh, Ty Jerome in 15 games played. Shout out. And again, I think it has been some ups and downs for Jalen Williams working his way back. Anthony Davis, 20 games played. 75th plus best player in the league. Okay, yeah, they have Jalen Williams at 30. They have Matt. He played 33 games this year. 1.0 on the VORP, but 2.2 on the box score plus minus. So I guess Porzingis in 31 games is 2.1. Hey, yo. So still, a very positive player in his minutes. But I don't think he's quite, of course, had the same level of efficiency. But I don't think that necessarily, again, would bump him too much for the playoff rankings, because he has the chance here to get healthy at the right time. And it is just that 3-point number being way fallen off from where it has been in the past. I guess it has kind of steadily gone down every year. And you do have the 1 year at 42%. So is that an outlier, or, were these past 2 years the outlier, but also that rookie year was at 35%? So, hey, like Jalen Williams, sneaky, not the 3-point shooter that we thought at one point, would be an interesting storyline. And I guess, what was he in the playoffs? Was he 40% in the playoffs last year? No, 30% in the playoffs as well, too. But still 20 a game. Didn't he have a 40-point game in the finals, if I'm not mistaken? So we know that potential is still there. And I guess because of that, I would be a little more worried about him than Chet in general. But I don't know if that applies for this year. But I do think that it would be over Bam. Though, again, for right now, I think Towns over Jalen Williams is appropriate. But, again, I think we could definitely see Williams reclaim that spot as the playoffs go here. But this is not too far off from where he's been at, the best version of him in the league here. So, we have the Warriors, Clippers, and the Spurs versus Denver, and I think the regular season might be over, chat. Have we made it to the end of the regular season? Let me just fire through the league pass here and double check. I guess we could double check on the ESPN, but I mean, we'd be going to switch the game anyways as well. So let's see if we're down. Are we down to Sports Center? Are we down to NBA.com top 10? We'll see what we can scoop up here. Maybe we just, fire a replay up as well too. We go back and watch Wemby versus Jokic from a couple years ago, like we were talking about, is the play, or press conference. Which press conference, I guess, is the one that we want to watch. But Advia tonight, I was going to say he put up 26, 10 assists, 25 points, 10 assists, and 6 rebounds. But it was against the Kings. I guess Renaud, our guy Renaud, 21-9, Clifford 24, and then they had another guy there with 27 or something. I just didn't see who that was. But the Kings, do they have a core? They may have, a little something there. Pause. But I guess it's going to be Golden State versus the Clippers in the 9-10. Phoenix versus Portland in the 7-8. So it'll be, if Devin Booker's playing, Phoenix versus OKC. And again, there really is, the Spurs won 62 games, OKC won 64. There's really no right answer for which team you want to play. But it will be interesting there if I think Phoenix wants to play OKC, to be honest. Because I think they think that they could punk OKC a little bit. If they had to punk a team, I think it would be OKC. So I think if you're Phoenix, hot take, you do kind of want to win that game against Portland and actually get the 1 seed versus the Spurs. And I think if you're Portland, I think you do want to play San Antonio as well. I don't know if you're going to, finesse your way to a win against either team. But maybe the inexperience of Portland or the inexperience of San Antonio would be the thing that you could rely on. Because again, like, Phoenix has Devin Booker, who is like a pretty experienced player. Dylan Brooks, pretty experienced playoff player. Like, they have guys that have been around. They could go into a series against OKC and not necessarily be too worried about what is going on there. So, I guess we do have to, put Booker in the rankings as well too. I feel like, again, long term, I mean, what do you say for trade value long term for like a Jalen Williams, Devin Booker argument? But it did feel like, again, he was definitely ascending up. And I know that, the injuries have, like we're saying, definitely put a halt to the momentum of the conversation. But I don't know if it's necessarily, again, locked in. If, like, Jalen, because that was like a real, and, Ishbia is not one to trade his players, I guess, obviously Durant, and he traded Bridges for Durant as well too. So maybe Ishbia will trade his players, but he definitely does not want to trade Devin Booker. That is for certain. But it did seem like there was a whiff of would there be like a Devin Booker for Jalen Williams type trade at some point? And it's like, okay, if you're Phoenix, you get that franchise guy in a way. If you're OKC, you get a little bit more of a veteran proven guy in Devin Booker. And I do think they would consider that trade now. Again, I would have to look at what the contracts would be and how, that would affect second apron type stuff. But if it was equal contracts, I think you could talk yourself into, the title window for this team is, what do you have, 4 to 5 years with any title team. So it's like, it would, and you just start talking yourself into would Jalen Williams be leaving in 5 years anyways to go somewhere and have his own franchise? And, could you make the same if Booker left in 5 years and you moved on? Maybe it's not necessarily, you're not in a worse place as a franchise, having traded Jalen Williams in the past, and maybe you have a title or two because of it. I mean, they already have a title with Jalen Williams, but I'm just saying that, again, it felt like that type of trade could have happened at some point if Ishbia would have wanted to go with the franchise guy. And like I'm saying, Jalen Williams definitely, I guess we still have to put Booker over Towns and Booker over Durant as well too. I know that puts Booker, though, into the All-NBA case. But again, this is not All-NBA. This is the NBA fear rankings. So I think for me, Booker over Durant in the playoffs, oh, chat. I guess it's just because Durant's 37, right? But he's still, and because he played the most minutes of anybody in the league, it is what it is. I guess I'm not more worried about the Suns than the Rockets. But if you traded, I guess if Ishbia wanted Durant back, if you traded Booker for Durant, would the Rockets be better? Would the Rockets be better? Hey, yo. Because would Booker and Sengun get along? Would the team like each other? Again, obviously you're still getting the same sort of, Amen Thompson season. Olivier Sarr in 15 minutes played is the 4th best player in the league. Hey, yo. Shout out. A great 15 minutes for Sarr. It looks like a menace. Did he get a couple of rebounds and that's Wemby'S rebounding stats we're looking at. Wemby rebounding and blocks, making him the best player in the league. It is what it is. But yeah, 4.2 on the defensive box score, is gonna help him get up there as well too. We know it's the defensive stuff, but is Sarr a better player on box score plus minus than Amen is? I mean, Detroit again has had a much better season they've had a better season than the Rockets have had, and it probably has been a little bit better of a collective unit, little bit more depth. The Eastern Conference versus the West, is a factor there as well too. But yeah, I mean, he has definitely, at least in that stat, won there. Yeah, I guess Amen Thompson 38th in box score plus minus. So we're talking about 2.6 versus 3.1. It's not a lot. And Sarr, it is all defense as well, too. Pause. 3.6 defensively versus -6 offense. Amen a little bit more balanced. 1.6 offensively versus 1.0 defensively. And I think maybe that is a playoff thing that could happen. Like if Amen Thompson just becomes a 3.0 box score level defender in the playoffs, then, the Rockets have a newfound sort of identity there, and he definitely goes into a little bit of a different level of a guy as well too for the impact. But I think Booker is still, like we're saying, pretty high up there as well too. I guess we didn't even see where he fell. Still over Scotty Barnes is what we're saying, and Jalen Johnson as well too. I guess they've got Knepel over. Okay, Booker at 2.2. Yeah, the defense, unfortunately, for Booker, I guess, is kind of in a different spot. -1.0 defensively, but 3.2 offensively. So he is still way up there. Is he an All-NBA level offensive player, maybe? We'll see what we get. I guess a little bit down the list. 23. So right behind our guy, Khan. Hey, yo. And Khan is a slightly better defender, but I think Booker can be a better defender at 29 versus Khan at 20. And LeBron's still better than Booker offensively. Reeves, though, at 3.4. Brunson Porter Jr., hey, yo, at 15th here for offensive box plus minus. And Advia as well, too, 17th. The positive. We do love a guy that is positive in both. Pause. Hey, yo. So a guy that gets you, the impact in both the offense and the defense, obviously. But, maybe a 1.0 or like a 1.5, 1.5, a 1.53. I don't know if that's unfair or not at this point, because that's, I guess, Ayo. Well, I guess Duran's at 0.5 defensively. Ayo, even a little bit, he's way higher, I guess, offensively, but, is still a guy that can be obviously a major two-way impact guy. Sengun at 2.7, 1.4, so he's getting pretty close to our, double-double territory that is appealing there. Yeah, Jalen Johnson as well, too. But again, he just doesn't quite have the ability to take over a game offensively. Like, he could be a major impact player and still find a way to, could he get to, like, 32 in a playoff game? Like, that could definitely happen, but I don't know about timing of getting a bucket in. Maybe if it was like a Spoelstra level or a Steve Kerr, somebody that could really draw up a play for him or something, then maybe there could be like an end of game scenario that is a little bit more feared. But again, it would be him more as a part of a team than him being like the lead guy. But, you know, it's going to be a good experience for him anyways to be that number one. And I guess just as a team matchup, like Atlanta versus Cleveland is interesting. I would expect Mitchell and James Harden and Mobley, again, as the more talented team to have the advantage there. But if Atlanta shows up to play and Cleveland is, you know, kind of messing around it a little bit, then I could see it. But again, we're talking, you know, Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Richer are going to go toe-to-toe. Like, in theory, you know, Cleveland is still the cutoff there for tiered up teams in the East. So we do have to probably add James Harden onto this list at some point, as much as we don't want to admit it. Like, I think we're gonna, well, I don't know if we're gonna hear from him in the playoffs or not. It is what it is. And where was he at, I guess, in box score plus minus? Can we put Knuppel on the list over James Harden officially? And Zion, I guess, being impactful defensively, minus 0.6 is, I guess, bringing down his total a little bit. But the 30th best player in the league, according to box score plus minus, hey, yo, like Zion, that's a real step forward. Shout out. 2.3 on the VORP, I guess, is, you know, it's going to be a little bit more difficult there because of the Pelicans being a little bit more of a losing team. But the win shares as well, you know, is going to be more difficult. But they did have, I guess, a SAR at 5.6 with the Pistons winning. Wait a second. Let's see where Zion does end up here. I guess Amen and Durant are 4th and 5th. So, you know, we're undervaluing their seasons. But again, they did play a lot. So, you know, is that skew the numbers? I don't know. But Booker 39th in win shares. Zion 52nd in win shares. Right between Colin Gillespie and Duncan Robinson. What a resurgence for Zion. That just made me feel so much worse about his season. Hey, yo, shout out to Duncan Robinson and Colin Gillespie. But it's just not where we thought Zion was going to be at in his career. I mean, he's not too far off in win shares per 48 around these guys. I guess he's in a little bit of a different tier. And Colin Gillespie, I guess, you know, kind of underrated. But for the most part, it seems like his box score is, I guess, Colin Gillespie. Zion is basically as good as Colin Gillespie in 2026, it looks like. So maybe we need to add, you know, Dizzy Gillespie himself to the list. It is what it is. Hey, yo, we tread lightly. But, yeah, I guess, you know, shout out to Zion for being at least, you know, again, a guy we hear from. You know, shout out, not saying that, you know, begrudgingly, besmirchingly. Hey, yo, over Knuppel in win shares per 48. Okay, over Maxey in win shares per 48 as well, too. Hey, yo. So the 27th best player in the league. I mean, we could throw Zion on the list. Zion over Norm Powell. Zion over Banchero and Bane. Why not? Over Austin Reeves? Would we be more worried about Bane or Zion? In a playoff series, I mean, Zion, it's close, but we'll just put Zion there for now. Pause. Why not, chat? Shout out to Zion just to reward the great season that he's had. You know, he might end up as we rank like 35 players on this list. It is what it is. Again, like guys like Cooper Flagg, I guess not going to be in the playoffs. You know, Knuppel, we don't even know if Knuppels and LaMelo are going to be there, but I guess we do have to consider them anyways. So Reeves and Khan are like kind of the same player as well too at this point. And Reeves is a little bit more experienced, though Khan is just, you know, again, he's a crazy bucket getter, but it just has been a little bit of a slow roll at the end of the year here compared to, you know, the heater that he was on. And that could be, you know, quote unquote rookie wall as well too. But again, we are talking about a rookie compared to veterans. So I'm not trying to be, you know, write him off because of that. But, you know, again, to be fair to where guys are at in their career, like Reeves is, you know, entering a little bit more of a veteran point. But let's see what we got here. Underwent imaging recently and may not play Sunday. Okay, so that's just, you know, I guess some maintenance stuff. 49% from the field, 36% from three this year. And I guess he did kind of drop to 23 a game. So second half of the year for Reeves as well too, with the injuries, you know, 51 games played is gonna, bump him down. Maybe we do go Knuppel over Reeves, chat. I don't know. I mean, Knuppel is pretty automatic. It is what it is. And then behind Chet, pause. I feel like that's starting to seem like it could be the right order. And then LaMelo over Knuppel as well too. It is what it is. Obviously, like we're saying, just him being the lead guy, I guess, gets the nod there. I don't know if we'll put anybody pause between Knuppel and LaMelo, but for now we'll have, and the veteran status of LaMelo as well too. But unfortunately for the Hornets, for their play-in and potential playoff whatever, like their season will definitely hang on whether or not LaMelo plays well or not. Again, because the play-in is the one-game scenario, a little bit different, but any potential playoff series success will definitely hinge on how good LaMelo plays there. DeAndre Ayton, the 36th best player in the league. Hey, yo. So all this time he was right. He is impactful. But somehow he's a negative 0.1 in the box score on offense and a negative 0.9 in the box score on defense. So I don't know how that equals to him being the 36th best player in the league. That is a little bit of a tweak in the... That is literally Luka and LeBron and Reeves just feeding him points, because the stats say that he is a -1 point per game when he is on the court. But LaMelo, a positive 4.7. And again, 4.8 offensive box plus minus points puts him at the... What was he at? The 10th best offensive player in the league? So the best version of LaMelo offensively is pretty crazy. And again, they also haven't necessarily had the potential... Not even the play-in opportunities yet, right? With LaMelo, is this their first play-in game, or were they in one last year? I guess if we're forgetting, that is not good. But we do have to add Denny Advia as well, too. He was an all-star, and maybe a better two-way player than Reeves. So if we were just talking about, who do you want to have on your team, that might be a little bit of a smarter team-building move. But again, like we've seen Reeves be a legit bucket getter in the playoffs. I don't know if I'm going into the playoffs more worried about Denny Advia than Austin Reeves. But again, we do have to give him the credit there for the season that he's having. But just behind Knuppel and LaMelo Ball as well too. And we don't even have LeBron on this list. Hey, yo, how disrespectful can we get? LeBron or Bam? LeBron or Chet? I feel like we just have to put LeBron in the tier where it's like, who do we think is all NBA and who is not? And then LeBron's just the dividing guy, just the honorary dividing line in that tier. Is LeBron an all NBA? Did he have an all NBA level season this year? Again, the offensive numbers have been good. They have been good, but I guess he didn't get the games played, right? As well. Only 59 is going to be short there. And wait, what's his defensive box score? 0.2. He's a positive defender. Hey, yo. Who else is a negative defender up here? LaMelo is. Anthony Edwards is. LeBron is a better statistical defender this year than Anthony Edwards. Way better than, Michael Porter. I was going to say Durant minus 1.2. Michael Porter being 1.2 is not super surprising there. He's better than Zion, better than Jaylen Brown, better than Reeves, better than Knuppel, better than Keontae George. Hey, yeah, I guess we've got it ranked by offense here. But, yeah, better defensively on paper than some good defenders. Hey, yo, wait, who's minus 1.4? Jamal Murray? That's actually insane, Chad. How are you minus 1.4 when Jokic is plus 4.1? Like, minus 1.4 is going to put him in, like, the bottom third of the league. I guess it's not, again, impossible to visualize Jamal Murray getting cooked but sometimes. But, hey, yo, he's the 17th worst defender in the league. We've got a smattering of Utah and Washington players. Bryce Sensabaugh, Keontae George down here again. Cody Williams, Ace Bailey, Bub Carrington, Will Riley, Tim Hardaway Jr. Hey, yo. So we've got two of the 15 worst defenders in the league in this Denver lineup. I think Denver just moved way down our fear rankings. in the playoffs. It is what it is. Again, Jokic can make up for a lot of stuff, but they probably still really, really struggle in those non-Jokic minutes. It is what it is. Knuppel, the first rookie to lead NBA in three-pointers made. So, immediately steps into the league as the best three-point shooter. Is pretty impressive. We've got Dylan Brooks down here with a minus 1.3 on the defensive box score. Trying too hard. Pause. And Booker on a minus 1.0. So Phoenix, again, this year, not a defensive team. It is what it is. So maybe they're not going to go in and punk OKC. Oh, chat, we just lost the games. Hey, yo. The NBA TV did not want to play the Charles Lee press conference for some reason. I don't know why it's crashing out. But I think, at least for all NBA, we didn't miss anybody. And, again, we could rank the playoff guys for, a while. But here, let me just get the. We gotta have all the TVs going in the background. It is what it is. But just to get the news, chat, to stay on top of things. Pause. We gotta make sure that we're keeping up with the programming. But yeah, we do. Oh, I guess Sven Goon is a name that we didn't have. Okay, wait, we got to put LeBron on this list here, and then Alperen Sengun. I guess we probably do have to be more worried about Sengun than LeBron in a playoff series, because Sengun can actually be a legit defender. Wait, where was he at defensively for his box score? 1.4? Like he can be fine. So 2.7 offensively, overall is going to make him, a little bit higher there than the individual stats. But I think Jalen Williams as a two-way player is obviously proven at this point. But Sengun could obviously jump over like Towns and even Booker, or even like Durant, and I guess Booker at that case as well too. I don't know, going in, I could definitely not put him over Duren. We might have to put Duren over Maxey at this point as well too, just with the bias case, and over Murray. If Murray's that bad defensively, again, all NBA ranking is one thing. If Murray's defensive box score is showing up like that, then that's going to cook him in the playoffs. It is what it is. So now we're back to Cade and Duren being, again, right next to each other, pause, in the fear rankings. But there is, if only the fact that, Tatum and Brown weren't way up on the fear rankings, then the Pistons would be, potentially the Eastern Conference favorite. But, Detroit versus Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals could be the, the obvious realistic thing that ends up happening there as well too. So our apologies to Giannis, but hey, yeah, we'll have to remove him from the list here for now. I guess we don't have all we have a couple non-NBA all NBA guys on this list. So not everybody here is in the 65 game club. We do have it opened up a little bit. We still don't have Scotty Barnes in this list. Hey, yo, or RJ Barrett or any of the Raptors players. Do we have maybe Scotty Barnes is the one that is able to break up the Hornets guys. I don't know. Because, again, they're not trading Chet for Scotty Barnes. The Knuppel-LaMelo impact is a little bit different, but as lead offensive playmakers, I think even Charlotte is still okay with what they have there. Barnes over Advia or Reeves or Zion, Bane, Banchero. I guess we're going to have to break up the Magic guys at some time as well, too. I do think that maybe we would go with Advia over Scotty Barnes, though that is a close one there as well too. But we'll play that like that for now. Though Scotty Barnes is, I guess, sneaky all-NBA guy. I don't know. He's definitely, positive both offense and defensive impact year for this team. Oh, and our guy Jalen. We got to make sure to pay respects to Jalen Johnson. So we'll get him ranked in the list as well, too. Definitely over Scotty Barnes, though maybe Barnes could do a little bit more offensively if he needed to. And Advia is a little bit more experienced. But Johnson, athletically, actually, he might be the one to break up the Hornets' screw. Let's go Johnson in between LaMelo and Knuppel. Because I don't know if he could, again, he could do as much offensively carrying the team as LaMelo could on the high end, but I think on the low end, his defense and rebounding may be a little bit more impactful if the offensive game is not there compared to Knuppel, if that makes sense. So the best version of LaMelo versus Jalen Johnson, LaMelo wins, but the worst version of Knuppel versus Jalen Johnson wins. So I don't know if that's the proper way to argue it out, but I think that's the way we're gonna place it there. So shout out to Jalen Johnson. We did add Sven Goon. Derek White is definitely a playoff impact guy as well too. Pritchard, continues to take steps up. I mean, they do have, I guess, Colin Gillespie as the 33rd best player in the league. Who would have thought? Colin Gillespie and Trey Murphy as well too. The Pelicans have 2 top 30 players. Hey yo, and they still can't win a game. It is what it is. Kada, our guy Fox. Again, I guess we're limiting the Spurs players, but where would we put Castle on this list realistically? I mean, once we get to the Svengoon tier, again, Svengoon is a little bit more advanced right now than Castle is, so I guess the argument is the best version of Svengoon this season better than the best version of Castle? But I'm not making that trade if that's what we're asking. Not for Towns, not for Durant, not for Booker, not for Maxey, not for Murray. Wemby and Duran would be an interesting combo, but I don't know if it's more lethal than Castle and Wemby. And I don't know if Wemby and Cade is more lethal than Wemby and Castle as well, too. Again, Cade definitely provides you a different offensive playmaking look, but the aggression at which Castle is a point of attack and defender is, something that gives that team that defensive identity as well, too. But, I mean, Cade, Mitchell, Brunson, Luka, we're in a tier of offense that Castle is just not objectively not in at this point. So, I don't know if I have a great way to defend it, but it is what it is. A Castle, this is where we're just going to kind of slot in Castle. Again, I don't know if he's an all-NBA guy, but for this season, and the playoffs could definitely hurt me here. Murray and Booker and Durant could all have great playoffs. Wilt Williams, any of these guys could have great playoffs, but I'm just projecting out a little bit and, trying to be as optimistic as I can be for our own guy here. And I think that this is where I would have Castle as of right now. Again, I feel like if you ask me, would you trade? And obviously there's chemistry things as well too. Is Cade having to learn the Spurs playbook going into the playoffs? Well, just give me, Castle versus, I guess at that point, if we're talking playbook, I mean, even Castle over Anthony Edwards. I guess at some point in basketball, you figure it out. But maybe Castle and Cade would, maybe Castle would jump over Cade and Mitchell if team chemistry was actually it is in real life. But in this hypothetical scenario, if they're just able to be implemented into the team right away and we're able to, get the best version of their impact right away, then it obviously becomes a little bit of a different thing. Oh, here's a list of guys that played all 82 games. Desmond Bane, Mikal Bridges, of course, Bruce Brown, Kamara, Bub Carrington, Julian Champagny, DiVincenzo, Chris Dunn, Jeremiah Fears, Javonte Green, Jay Huff, Iguodala. Who's the best player there? Hey, yo, Mikal Bridges, maybe? Again, I think just giving credit to the guys that played the 75-plus as well, too, is a good tier of guy. But, pause. But, yeah, I mean, again, I think Duran, just because of what Wemby does is, maybe gets a little redundant at that point. And by bringing in Castle, you get a point, like we're saying, a perimeter, a point of attack, a defender, and a guy that can take it to the basket as well, too, offensively. But for the playoffs, I guess I'm confidently saying that I could have Castle in the top 12 for playoffs right now. And, again, at this moment, having him over guys like Jalen Williams and Chet in the trade value rankings or, playoff confidence, playoff fear rankings, however you want to say it, is obviously, giving me that hope for what the playoff run could be this year in San Antonio. And like I'm saying, this is the optimistic version of the rankings. But that's why we'll have him noted in the italics there. And I guess we could move it around. Pause. as well, too, as the playoffs continue to go. And again, we will, I guess, have to consider our non-playoff guys as well, too, after, we get a look at what the ranking could be. Where's Reed Shepherd going to end up on this list, I guess, is, potentially going to be interesting. Again, I guess we do have some role guys on here as well, too, guys like Reeves and stuff. But, ranking the number one players, I guess the core guys for the playoff teams here. Let's see who else we're missing for, I guess we don't want leaders. We want seasons here. Who else we're missing for major impact guys? And, again, some teams' cores look a little bit different as well, too. Like the second and third guys, of course, are just on a different tier. Like that Atlanta team is a different example. Like there is just and maybe it is not fair to guys like guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker for the season that they're having, but there is just a different, name value to like RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, and there is, I guess, to, like the Hawks at this point. But, regardless, I think that is going in, projected out that Jalen Johnson would be kind of the main guy on the watch list there for playoff impact. I guess Edgecombe for Philly. Embiid. Do we have to put Embiid on the list? I mean, shout out. Again, we're pro Embiid on this pod. And, if we're going to have him over Desmond Bane or Banchero, imagine we're more afraid of Embiid in the playoffs than Banchero. I mean, the problem is Embiid defensively, can kind of get cooked at this point. It is what it is. So, but Embiid over Norm Powell still, just because Norm Powell hasn't played a lot in the second half of the season, though I don't even think that that's kind of how it would play out in the playoffs. But regardless, shout out. We'll just keep Embiid right there in the rankings for now. It is what it is. And then, we left off, I guess, James Harden here as well. Over Jalen Johnson, we're going back to the Hornets pair, or over Harden or LaMelo. That is an interesting debate for this playoffs. Again, we're talking about the 9 seed in the East. LaMelo might not even be in the playoffs, and I guess, they wouldn't have traded LaMelo for Darius Garland because of the situations, especially that James Harden was in, and where he's at in his career as well too. But would you rent James Harden for 1 season for LaMelo and then trade it back in the offseason? I don't think you would. You obviously would want to see the experience of what this core is, but I think you would still believe that LaMelo could have a better playoff run than James Harden, even though, again, obviously James Harden's legacy as a playoff guy, even with what it is still clearly above LaMelo's at this point. Do we have to put LaMelo above Chet? Again, because obviously they have the guard. They would not trade Chet for LaMelo and then go with LaMelo and Shea. I don't think they would, though. Hey, I don't know what Presti's thinking out there. And if would Sam trade Chet for LaMelo? I guess I was just going to assume that Sam would. I don't know if Sam would, even though, he's obviously pro LaMelo. I mean, he's also pro winning titles and pro, good basketball moves. Not to say that, again, trading Chet for LaMelo would be a bad basketball move, but you do also have to consider what else, you have on your team. Obviously, you can't have MJ and Clyde Drexler on the same team. You have to draft Sam Bowie. So, that's just how team building works. It is what it is. But we'll go LaMelo over Chet, I guess, for now. And then I forgot even who we were bringing on those. Oh, James Harden over. I think you would maybe want Jalen Johnson. Do you want the defense and the rebounding? But then Knuppel, though? Would you take Knuppel's offense? But, James Harden's just a better passer. And like we're saying, it's not like Knuppel's been lighting the world on fire headed into the playoffs here. So there is just a little bit of hesitancy anyways. We may have to give the veteran some respect. So James Harden under Jalen Johnson, we'll go with it, chat. Even though, again, there is, I think, weird potential for him on this team to be as impactful in a playoff run as he's ever been, but as a number 2 guy in a playoff run, I mean, he was pretty impactful as, the 6th man there for OKC back in the day as well, too. But, we're keeping our eye on what that could be this year. We have Towns, Jaylen Brown, we have the Detroit guys ranked. Same with the Thunder. I guess we got to get our guy De'Aaron Fox on the list here, like we were talking about. Oh, chat, I would hate to have Knuppel over Fox right away. Again, definitely not Knuppel over Dylan Harper, even though, again, this playoffs, it is a little bit different. But for this team, even right now, it wouldn't matter. But Knuppel over Fox? No, chat. And then De'Aaron Fox? I mean, we wouldn't trade James Harden, though. Again, Jalen Johnson. Is Jalen Johnson... Chet's moving down the list, chat. Hey, yo. This could be a big playoff for Chet if he's like a consistent 22, 23 a game type guy. Because, again, it did really go down to like Jalen Williams and Shea at the end of the finals. And Caruso, we do have to put Caruso on this list because Caruso will win a playoff game in each series. And honestly, I don't know if I had to choose between Caruso and Denny Advia, Caruso and Austin Reeves, Caruso and Zion, like it's getting close. It's getting close. So we may have to put Denny Advia there just because for now, because he's done so much for this Blazers team. But Caruso over Scotty Barnes, lock it in. It is what it is. And, Caruso over Fox, chat? Oh, no, we didn't say it. We didn't say it. But we wouldn't trade LaMelo for... We wouldn't want LaMelo as the fourth guard on this team, would we? There's just a calmness with Fox that he has. LaMelo is a little too fast. And the Hornets do play fast, so it is good. LeBron, Svengoon. Oh, chat. I mean, Fox. We're moving Fox up the list. Turns out we like our team. It is what it is. We'll put Fox behind Bam, and then, I guess in front of LaMelo for now. Though, again, I'm not saying that this is trade value rankings in a way. And De'Aaron Fox, maybe in this case, being a little bit bumped down by the fact that he's the third guy on the team. But, again, that could help the legacy overall vibe a bit. Julius Randle, we have to consider Julius Randle as well, too. And here, we'll throw Amen Thompson over Embiid or Paolo. Ayo, or Bane. I guess he does have, again, the defensive thing to fall back on as well, too. Ayo. Over Zion, you wouldn't, again, if we're going trade value there. And then Scotty Barnes and Caruso, I think I would probably take Caruso. I mean, there's no way I would have thought that I would have been drafting Caruso in a playoff series over Amen Thompson going into this season. But, again, going back to the Commissioner's Cup, I almost saw Caruso single-handedly win that game for the Thunder. So, and, he's been guarding Jokic in the playoffs. Like, he's obviously been that impact guy. So we know we have to respect his game. A top 30, top 20 impact type guy. I mean, it could definitely get to that point in the season where that is true. And then Amen Thompson below Caruso. Hey, yo, it is what it is. And then we had, I guess, Julius Randle to throw on the list here. Over Scotty Barnes. I feel like Reeves is tumbling down the list maybe a little farther than we'd like. So I don't know. Would we rather have Reeves or Randle? I mean, Randle does give you a little bit more playmaking. Zion or Randle? Imagine, would Minnesota do that? Would Minnesota make that trade? Randle back to New Orleans? I would say Randle's more proven. I don't know if he's more proven in the playoffs. That's the problem. I mean, for Minnesota, he did play well, so, that franchise does have good memories there, and at least he gets to, he'll be there for this season because of that. But, is he going to be better in the playoffs than Zion would be in the playoffs? You don't know. I don't know if you can objectively say that Randle has proven consistently that he would be. But we will, for now, put him over Scotty Barnes. But we'll still say the Amen Thompson potential is something that we're more intrigued / feared by. I don't even really know what this ranking is at this point. I think we're just listing guys out. Pause. But it is what it is. I guess we're not going to include Dylan Brooks. Probably nobody from the Blazers core. Oh, we didn't include Kawhi or Steph. Hey, yo, where is Steph? Steph in the playoff fear rankings is still as high up as anybody on this list. Again, Steph might not be in the playoffs because of the play-in scenario. But if he were to make it there as a player over Brunson, over Mitchell, over Cade at this point, heck yeah. I mean, Brunson, I guess it's just we're being ageist at this point. I feel like we have to pick Brunson and Doncic over Steph. But screw it. We'll take Steph over Doncic in a playoff series. If we can build a team from scratch, a healthy Steph or a healthy Doncic, give me one more last playoff run with Steph Curry. Why not? Why not? So we'll have him in that. And again, he's not going to be an all-NBA level guy, but because of the injuries. But in terms of the level of play, I think he can still, make the case for Steph as one of those guys. But I mean, Kawhi has been, when he's played, again, arguably individually a top guy as well, too. Though we're not scared of Kawhi in San Antonio. So Kawhi, I guess Kawhi has to go over Embiid and Norm. We unfortunately put Norm Powell over Embiid now as well, too. Oh, Chad, I didn't mean for the end of this ranking to get disrespectful. But it is what it is. We'll just put Kawhi Leonard down here for now. Pause. Ayo. And then Norm Powell as well, too. So there we go. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard is right there. And then Wemby's up here. So this is the playoff impact, playoff fear rankings for 2026. And I guess a slight look at All-NBA as well, too. But there is, of course, play-in games this week that we'll be reacting to. And then we'll be here for the playoffs. Hot take. Shocker. I guess, hopefully we'll be here for the playoffs. So the plan is to go forward and be here for the playoffs. So you can follow us here on the YouTube as we, go along and figure out, will this be the Spurs year? Will the Thunder repeat? Will Tatum and the Celtics just sneak their way through the year and swoop in and get the title? Will Detroit, the bad boy Pistons, bring the bad boy era back? What does that mean? Just Bill Laimbeer and Isaiah Thomas. That's all. That's the bad boy we're talking about. Whoa, that's not how we meant to say it. It's just the late at night sort of way you talk. I don't know. Hey, I don't think that made our case better either way. Oh, we didn't even rank Cooper Flagg on this list. It is what it is. Rookie of the Year, Cooper Flagg. Is that our quick awards? But I guess it's more, what's going to happen versus what should happen. I guess Jokic is our should-be MVP for the year. I think so. There really is no wrong answer. You can't go wrong with picking Wemby. And, I mean, Shea is obviously as important to anybody for that Thunder team. But, Jokic is Jokic. So, Jokic is the should-be MVP. Shea is obviously the will-be MVP. I don't know if I think Concanupple is the should-be Rookie of the Year. Cooper Flagg is the actual Rookie of the Year. And then the Spurs are the should-be Western Conference champions, right? I know the Poly Market has them at the 26%. But we'll say the Spurs should be the Western Conference champions. And, I don't know, we pick Denver again just to not jinx it. Denver will be the actual Western Conference champions. I guess that just motivates OKC. So we'll pick OKC just to jinx them. There we go. So now it happened. And then Boston, I guess, is the should-be Eastern Conference champs, and I think they will be the Eastern Conference champs as well, too. I mean, you can't count out Detroit, but I do think that I would actually say that I think it's more likely Boston wins the East than, and I guess, OKC and San Antonio are probably more competitive win percentage-wise, though Detroit almost did get to 60 as well, too. So it's no guarantee that, Boston would have put up 62, 63 wins with Tatum as well. They could have been a 58, 59 win team easily. But, I think it's more likely that Boston wins the East than any one team wins the West. Because, again, I think that this year I'm putting Edwards on the list as could rip through the West. I mean, or anybody. Because I don't know if I see that guy in the East, I guess, is the problem. The guy I see in the East is Tatum or Brown, that are just going to have the great playoff series and rip through. I guess, would it be Maxey out of the play-in, just totally carrying that team with Embiid and Paul George and Edgecombe? If Paul George was like a little bit better, and if Edgecombe just wasn't a rookie, like it just doesn't quite have the right timing of the pieces, unfortunately. So maybe the case is Miami, but again, it's them getting out of the play-in. So maybe it's a Charlotte, Miami, whoever gets out of that play-in, potentially. Or Brunson, I guess, this year is the guy that just totally takes his team over and takes that team to the finals. So can it be a Brunson, Jokic, both those guys do everything finals? But one of the quote-unquote best teams is going to make it. So it is, I know it's easy to say either or, but it is probably going to be San Antonio or OKC in the West. I would imagine that is the Western Conference Finals. I guess, again, I'm just move Edwards up to number 1 on the rankings. It is what it is. I don't know what else to tell you guys, but regardless, we'll be here following it all on the YouTube. Follow us here. Follow us on the podcast feeds. Follow us on the Instagram and send us a little message over there if you want to connect with us that way as well, too. We'll be back Tuesday night. Sunday, Tuesday, Friday is the schedule. So we will be back Tuesday night. Join us then, and we can't wait to see y'all later. Peace.